financial year 2023 to 2024. Do you engage in some kind of betting and gambling? How do you keep it in check? Should the industry be regulated further, or should it be doing more to educate its users about some of the perils of gambling? I'd love to hear your reflections on that as well. We've got that interview coming up in the second hour. All your regulars locked and loaded. And Musa with your news updates every half hour. Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so. Zaikan is watching your sport throughout the morning. Dowling Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. And Sipho Mantula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The first hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
What's your vibe for 2025? Whether it's visiting family or hitting SA's most Insta-worthy spots, Fly Safair is here to make it happen with 30% off flights. That's right, for today only, join the hottest New Year sale around and enjoy 30% off domestic flights for travel until 25 October this year. It's your year to thrive, vibe and make those travel dreams come alive. Book at flysafair.co.za. Fly Safair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Abafana has turned and the Rockets are both looking for a decent spot in the top half. They are all confident they will walk away from the battlefield with jubilance. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch the great passion and drama of Mzansi's beautiful game. Golden Arrows FC takes on TS Galaxy FC on Saturday 18 January live on SABC 1 at 2:30 p.m. and SABC radio stations at 3:30 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Good morning to you, Anne.
Good morning to us.
Yeah, I see there's some major developments in the Middle East, but also to the west of Gauteng in Stilfontein. Well, in the northwest, actually, not Gauteng, in the northwest here in South Africa.
Yes, so we do have a reaction to that Israel-Hamas Gaza ceasefire announcement, and the ceasefire rather, is expected to take effect on Sunday. So it also means that, the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas likely to end a long and painful chapter for both the Israelis and the Gazans. And then in the northwest, volunteers working with the rescue teams, they have said that there are no more illegal miners underground at Shaft 11 at the Buffelsfontein mine, and it is in a government-led operation. So the Mine Rescue Services also confirming that they will be sending a cage underground this morning to see if there's any illegal miners that will resurface. And the acting provincial commissioner of the Northwest is this morning expected to give us an update on the operations. And in other stories that we are looking at, a briefing by the chairpersons of the social services cluster that's on the performance challenges as well as processing of legislation. These weekly briefings, it is a new task of the National Legislature and part of the 7th Parliament's attempts to remain accountable to the public and also to have regular reports on its function as an oversight body. We have details on the Action SA and Forum for Service Delivery joining forces with plans to contest the 2026 local government elections, coming together under the Action SA banner, and the Forum for Service Delivery brings about 38 municipal seats across 5 provinces to the table. And also taking a look at what's happening in court, the second suspect in connection with the killing of 8 people at a local tavern in Pinar outside Mbombela expected to appear at the Kabukwene Magistrates Court today. So just some of the stories that we will be focusing on.
All right, and thank you for that. That's Anne Musa. She'll be giving you updates on the news every half hour right here on The Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
So to get your day started, then let's give you a sense of how your weather is looking. There's a just one impact-based warning. It's a yellow level 2 warning. It is for severe thunderstorms with heavy downpours and damaging winds, hail and excessive lightning, leading to localized flooding of roads and settlements and localized damage to infrastructure, and that is expected over Gauteng, central and eastern parts of the northwest, eastern parts of the Free State, southwestern parts of Limpopo, and western parts of the Mpumalanga Highveld. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria, partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers with a minimum temperature of 17 and a maximum of 28. Johannesburg, partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 14 to 26. Mbombela, cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 19 to 21. Polokwane, cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 19 to 24. Mahikeng will be partly cloudy and windy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 18 to 31. Bloemfontein, partly cloudy and windy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 7 to 33. Kimberley will be fine, becoming partly cloudy, 12 to 33. Cape Town, partly cloudy in the early morning, otherwise fine, 15 to 24. George, partly cloudy, 13 to 21. Gqeberha will be fine with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 24. East London will be cloudy with a chance of morning rain, 14 to 24. Durban will be cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 16 to 23. Richards Bay will be cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 16 to 24. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will be cloudy with isolated showers and rain, with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 19.
Defending champions Bayer Leverkusen want to stay close to the log leaders, while Borussia Mönchengladbach are navigating a path to the top 4. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch Bayer Leverkusen versus Borussia Mönchengladbach on Saturday, 18 January at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course, We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll get a fantastic price for your car. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
Let's give you an update on a story we've been watching here on the show. South Korea's suspended president, Yoon Suk Yeol, has become the first sitting president in the country's history to be arrested. His arrest follows a tense standoff between authorities and his presidential security last Friday. The arrest stems from a series of serious charges related to Suk Yeol's attempted declaration of martial law in the country in December 2024. Let's bring into the conversation Professor David Munyai, who is the director of the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time as always. Testing times for South Korea's democracy. I mean, unprecedented. We keep using the word unprecedented, but this truly is uncharted terrain, the arrest of a sitting president.
Well, indeed, and it has huge implication on him and the constitution of the country, given the fact that there are endless people on the streets demonstrating. I mean, the opposition on one side and the governing party. So these are indeed trying times for South Korea and the president. It's a wait and see, but huge implication in terms of the economy, which is not doing well. Unemployment is on the rise. And the coming of President Trump is also bringing in quite challenges, given the fact that South Korea has huge surplus, trade surplus with the United States, and the fear for tariffs will also worsen should that happen, the South Korean economy.
Yeah. We'll talk about, the implications of the relationship between South Korea and the likes of the United States in just a moment. But I want to talk a bit more about the divisions. What divisions are these issues around President Yoon Suk Yeol revealing within South Korean society, but also institutionally? This whole standoff between the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials, CIO, the dramatic way in which he had to be arrested, including cutting barricades amid protests pro and against him.
As it stands, it appears that the president, even though he was impeached, the Constitution still gives him powers. Particularly, he's still protected by the state, therefore the presidential guard, and therefore to access him, there's different division of the state, particularly the armed force, tries to protect him according to the Constitution. But on the other hand, you have the CIO that you have mentioned, which still in the trial, it hasn't done this before. While on the other hand, the Constitution Court needs to go through. So it's not yet given that he will be found guilty, given the fact that the Constitutional Court needs to make pronouncement on the matter. Should he be found guilty, chances are high that it could be life or even death penalty.
Sure. And as far as impeachment is concerned, that's coming up for arguments before the Constitutional Court and then later a decision on it. Are you starting to get a sense that either way, whether the impeachment is upheld or overturned by the Constitutional Court, the only solution might be for South Koreans to go to elections and settle this matter once and for all?
So as it stands, that's where the crisis is. He has to resign, and he hasn't officially resigned. So that brings the standoff and confusion, given the division within Parliament and numbers of members of Parliament, the governing party and opposition. Opposition does not have sufficient members to outright force him to be out of power, and therefore what we face is much more a constitutional issue, not political. Politically speaking, he still has massive support in his party, unless certain members of parliament in his party join the opposition. And it appears that in times such as this, it requires a strong leader who would just resign and allow the nation to go to elections.
Sure.
But I doubt very much if he'll do so.
This brings me to the point then about why does all of this matter to the rest of us? Locate for us South Korea's importance as a manufacturing hub, but also now increasingly a cultural export hub, that exports to the rest of the world, a key ally of countries such as the United States.
Well, firstly, South Korea has a formidable trade with South Africa, a very close relation with South Africa and the continent. And globally, South Korean economy, we all use Samsungs. That they all come from South Korea. Their companies are doing extremely well, and they play a critical role in the global economy, and therefore disturbances within Korea has a huge implication in Asia, given the fact that our trade, bulk of our trade as Africa and the world is with Asia more so than the West. And therefore, I think these disturbances on the ground are not good for Korea, not good for Asia, as well as the world economy, given the fact that there are so many transitions, not only in Asia, in the US and Europe. The global economy is not doing well.
Yeah. All right. Fkora, thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Professor David Munyai, who is the director of the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg. Bringing us to 6:30, let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the agreement of a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel has been welcomed by international leaders who hope it could usher in a period of relative stability. Police say a cage will be lowered underground at Shaft 11 in Stilfontein this morning to verify reports by community volunteers that there are no longer any illegal miners underground. A total of 246 illegal miners who are still alive were brought to the surface from Monday to Wednesday. And dozens of global medical experts are calling for a radical overhaul in the way obesity is determined. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Truck crash on the R59 North coming in from the Vereeniging-Meyerton side, so leaving the Vaal up to Joburg. The crash at the N12 Reading interchange. Very heavy backlogs. Looks like you're probably into a single lane or maybe having to divert around that. It's a big queue back through Michelle and back to Swartkoppies Road. So if you know the alternative routings around that, like off at Swartkoppies or off at Michelle Avenue, and pick up some alternatives rather than sitting in that traffic right through to Reading interchange territory. Taxi crash on Olifantsfontein between Clayville and Midrand. Expect some delays along that one. It looks like that taxi is overturned. Heading down to Durban, coming out of Pietermaritzburg, really big backlogs of traffic this morning from sort of New England Road down towards Market Road. There is a crash around the New England ramp system there, so maybe motorists just diverting in big numbers, but it's very heavy leaving Pietermaritzburg down in towards Durban direction this morning. Cape Town, a crash, R300 North at the N2. If you're coming up from Mitchell's Plain towards the N2 highway using that R300, just watch for slowing traffic at that scene. And another bit of sand this morning up on that Monwabisi side of Baden-Powell, so just go carefully through there. I believe traffic officials are on the scene of that. And the M5 are looking quite slow today. Looks like there may be an issue around the Klipfontein Road as you come up into that Rondebosch area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Howdy, partner.
Daddy of the year. Welcome back.
I don't know about that. I was close to tears yesterday. Tell me about Luandra Pretorius from smashing matric results, class of 2024, right?
Right?
Yeah.
And
yeah?
He's just making the rest of us rethink what we achieved after matric.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Within days of getting the results, it's moved on. It's doing great things.
Wow. Yeah, Thulas. I mean, this is one of our teenage sensations who's starring in the SA20 tournament. And yeah, he got his matric results. He smashed 83 runs of 52 balls, including 8 boundaries and 3 sixes, leading the Paarl Royals to a thrilling 6-wicket victory over MI Cape Town in Paarl. The Royals chased down 159 with 6 balls to spare despite a late game scare after Pretorius was run out. Captain David Miller, his 24 runs sealed the win. Earlier, Rassie van der Dissen kept MI Cape Town afloat with a unbeaten 91 of 64 balls. MI Cape Town remain at the top of the standings, but the Royals are climbing fast. And more cricket, South Africa's fast bowler Andrik Nokia ruled out of the ICC Champions Trophy with a back injury. The 31-year-old was initially named in the Proteas 15-man squad for the 50-over tournament in Pakistan and the United Arab Emirates. However, a scan revealed the extent of the injury, and Cricket South Africa confirming he's not expected to recover in time. Nokia, who played mostly in the Abu Dhabi T10 in December, will also miss the remainder of the SA20 franchise tournament where he's due to play for the Pretoria Capitals. Soccer news, Bafana midfielder Luke de Roo is poised to move to top Swedish side Hammarby, who will be competing in the UEFA Conference League in the 2025-26 season, which is a boost for Bafana coach Hugo Broos. The Belgian has made no secret of the fact that he's an admirer of Leroux and will certainly be in his thoughts for the 2026 FIFA World Cup should Bafana qualify. Elsewhere, Phil Foden has admitted that Manchester City's bid to win a 5th successive Premier League title is over after the troubled champions drew 2-2 at Brentford. 6th place City are languishing 12 points behind leaders Liverpool. In the meantime, Verona have acquired have been acquired by the American private equity firm Presidio Investors. In a joint statement, Presidio and former owner Maurizio Setti said the Texas-based company have acquired 100% ownership of Verona. On to golf, and Louis Liebenberg will sleep on a slim one-stroke lead going into the final round of the 9th Big Easy Tour event at the Ibotsa Links, and thanks to a second round of 70 yesterday. Motorsport, South Africa's Henk Lateghan moving back to the top of the overall standings after the 10th stage of the Dakar Rally was won by Spain's Ford driver Nani Roma. Roma covered the 120-kilometer special in the sand dunes in 2 hours 6 minutes, handing Ford their first Dakar stage win since 2015. Brazil's Luca Moraes was second, with Saudi Arabia's Dania Akil rounding off the podium. The South African Lateghan now sits 2 minutes 27 seconds ahead of the Saudi driver, and that's in the general classifications. And finally, it's road running, with South Africa's star Gelderstein welcoming the expectations that come with joining the Hollywood Athletics Club. The Comrades and 2 Asians marathon record holder was unveiled as the club's latest elite member in Durban, becoming the 20th addition to the Purple Team, while Steyn's signing is seen as a key step towards helping the club secure long-awaited major titles. She doesn't perceive the expectation as pressure.
Of course, there's always expectations, and pressure comes with the trade of being a professional runner. So, of course, there's pressure, but from my point of view, I rather see it as a way for me to give back to the club that supports me. I don't feel it as in a negative thing to have pressure. I just feel like it is, they really want me to do well. They want me to succeed. They support me towards my goals, and the pressure that I feel is more the internal pressure to make sure that I can perform at my best, to give back to those who support me.
And that's your sports
Zai,
update.
Before you go, you know I had to say something. Stein.
Durban.
Do you know the character, the Flash?
Yes.
Yes.
The superhero?
Yeah, I run for a club called Run Zone here in Johannesburg. And sometimes she will come and practice with Run Zone. And last year, during one of the practice runs, going uphill, I'm huffing and puffing. And this woman just comes and she whizzes past like the Flash. Anyway, she's sensational.
Yeah, well, you're sensational too.
I try.
Your heart and soul is in it, in the road running.
Don't know. Anyway. My legs just don't carry.
Just your heart and soul.
Yes. Thanks, Zai.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Darling Lichela, good morning to you. This is concerning, is it not? U.S. inflation is accelerating a bit.
That's right, Silas, but not a cause of concern just yet, because as you dig into the print, you'll see that the core inflation has eased. So the headline number quickened to 2.9% last month from 2.7% in November. This comes as energy and food costs, as well as prices for used vehicles, increased during the period. Excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core inflation declined to 3.2% after sitting at 3.3% for 3 months. Now, economists pay close attention to core prices because they typically provide a better guide of inflation's future course. While that headline number, as I said, rose, core inflation has allayed inflationary concerns, with chief economic strategist at Morgan Stanley Wealth Management, Ellen Zitner, saying the CPI may help the Fed feel a little more dovish. Zitner further explained that the recent report probably won't change expectations for a pause later this month, but it should curb some of the talk about the Fed potentially raising rates. Now, there's been heightened fears that inflationary pressures will make a comeback as Trump prepares to pass through those policies. Predictions for rate cuts for this year have been lowered from 4 to 2. But last week's strong jobs report and the recent inflation print provide some comfort for policymakers.
But over in Europe, the German economy also slowing a bit for a second year in a row. Now, that would be a cause of concern?
Definitely, Europe's biggest economy really not faring well. Plus, another downbeat finish for that nation, with growth shrinking 0.2% in 2024. Now, that economy hit by decreased domestic demand, soaring energy costs, and increased competition from Chinese imports. The country's industrial sector has been particularly hit hard, with manufacturing output falling 3% on an annual basis. This decline is largely attributed to a sharp drop in car manufacturing, chemicals, and energy-intensive industries. VW, for example, one of Germany's largest employers, has announced big job cuts by 2030 due to slumping demand. Although the company scrapped plans to close plants, the move highlights the challenges facing Germany's industrial sector. The construction industry also suffered, shrinking by 3.8% due to higher raw material prices and elevated interest rates. Now, Germany narrowly avoided a technical recession, but has experienced fluctuations between growth and contraction over the past 2 years. The country's economic struggles have contributed to the collapse of the coalition government as well, leading to an early election next month. Now, analysts expect Germany's downbeat performance to be reflected in the fourth quarter GDP print for the Eurozone. Political risks in Germany as well as France have weighed on sentiment there.
So give us our first roundup of the markets here at home and elsewhere in the world.
So U.S. markets pushing through overnight, with stocks rallying following a softer than expected inflation print and upbeat banking earnings. With that, we saw the Nasdaq ending the day close to 2.5% higher. Sentiment also positive here at home. Green screens all round, with the all share closing 1.7% higher, boosted by a 2% jump in the financial 15. Currencies also staging a recovery, with the rand trading under the 19 rand mark. It's sitting at 18.80 against the dollar this morning. And then over in Asia, markets are a sea of green today, following the broadly positive cues from its global peers, after data showing a slowdown in the annual rate of core consumer prices growth in the U.S. in December. This helped ease concerns about the Fed's interest rate trajectory.
All right, we'll talk to you a bit later. That's Ntauleng Lechela. She'll be back with a second update for you just after 7:30 here on The Morning Brief.
Hey, you know what, South Africa? We're just not talking about enough.
Excuse me?
Use it liberally. Use it early. Use it with your folks.
Hey, careful, young lady.
Yes, it'll be awkward at first, but not quite as awkward as your tidy-whitey wearing father-in-law spending his golden years on your couch. Wouldn't you agree? Finances is not a dirty word. Let's start talking about it, Mzansi. Find out how at livewithconfidence.co.za. Sanlam. Sanlam Life is a licensed life insurer, financial services, and registered credit provider.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
To this now, 2 cases currently in the news this week have brought crimes committed and misconduct committed online into the spotlight. These are the case against gossip blogger Musa Kaula, who was arrested for an alleged contravention of the Cyber Crimes Act, and the matter of Judge Selbin Benenge, who is accused of sending sexually explicit social media messages to a junior staffer when he was the judge president during his tenure, of course, as judge president of the Eastern Cape. These cases have highlighted crimes and misconduct related to social media and their implications. Let's take that conversation further. I'm joined by Lucian Pierce, who is the director of PPM Attorneys. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. I want to start with the WhatsApp element of it, which is center stage in the Judge President Selbin Benenge matter. What does that reveal about, the real life lived consequences of interactions on a medium and a platform such as WhatsApp, which has now become so prevalent even in business communication?
Morning, Thulasizwe. Thanks for having me on the show. You highlight such an important aspect about social media and modern communications. As much as we send these images or messages out and think that there is going to be some sort of confidence on the part of the person who's receiving them, the reality is that there are many ways that these communications and images can actually be disseminated, be spread, be saved, And even if we trust a person, who knows how things turn out and how they use it in the future. So it is really quite a risky exercise, particularly where you're dealing with sensitive or controversial content and images.
Is it that, Lucian, that these platforms, such as WhatsApp, have merely become new instruments for the commission of misconduct that, has been taking place in quote-unquote real life anyway? So issues such as sexual harassment now have a new instrument, instrumentality through WhatsApp.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, in the old days, you would probably send a letter or put a picture up on a wall somewhere if you wanted to embarrass someone. But nowadays they extend everywhere. Everybody has a device, so it has become so easy to disseminate this information. So yes, 100%. These new social medias, new ways of communication are the new way of committing these offences. So yeah, we have to be very careful about how we use them.
Lucian, the other key aspect of the hearings of the Judicial Conduct Tribunal has been the extensive use and exchange of emojis between Judge Mbenenge and the complainant in this matter. And it's got me thinking that they seem innocuous emojis. I mean, you just want to convey, the message doesn't have a tone, so the other person doesn't know whether you're smiling as you're saying it, so therefore you put a smiley. But it is also tricky ground, isn't it? I mean, there's also cases where this has been asked whether can an emoji be, amount to defamation or hate speech in the South African context of South African law. How do we grapple with that? Something that many of us think is innocuous, an emoji, but actually may have meaning and implications.
Yes, you've hit the nail on the head as far as emojis are concerned. There are decisions in other jurisdictions where a simple thumbs up has meant to mean the conclusion of a contract. So they have very real implications. We all know, and as adults, we know what a peach means, and we know what an aubergine or a brinjal means when you send that as an emoji. So sending those types of images can be interpreted to mean and have certain connotations, which certainly could get someone into trouble.
Yeah. Then let's turn to this issue around Musa Kaula, the blogger, the gossip blogger. Just how unprecedented or perhaps precedented is it that we have someone arrested in relation to their conduct on social media and charged with crimen injuria, among other things, but also violations of the Cyber Crimes Act. Just how unprecedented is that? Because the state is even opposing bail in that matter.
Yes. So it's not the first time, Thulasizwe, where we have people who are in trouble for committing crimes related to social media and associated with the Cyber Crimes Act. It has happened quite a bit in the past. Those crimes, before we had the Cyber Crimes Act, were prosecuted under different laws and also prosecuted under a law called the criminal injuria, which basically means infringing someone's dignity. But in this instance, what certainly strikes me and astounds me is the behavior of the person involved, because from my understanding, and the cases might not be associated, part of the arrest relates to a failure to comply with a court order. And under South African law, our law is paramount, and failing to respect the law and a court order and the orders of a judge really goes to sticking your middle finger up to the law. So I think it really is a very, very serious issue, and I expect that this person is certainly going to have the book thrown at them.
Sure. All right. Interesting times ahead. Thank you for that. That's Justin Pierce, who is Director at Specialist IT and cybersecurity law firm PPM Attorneys in Johannesburg. So there you have it. I mean, I was asking you a bit earlier on to reflect on these matters. Do you think about these consequences of the messages you send on WhatsApp, the emojis that you send? Because as you've just heard from Justin there, from Lucian rather, there are real life lived consequences, as well as your following of gossip bloggers on social media. What purpose does it serve? Do you follow gossip bloggers, and what purpose does it serve? What does it say about us that these people that, in the word of former President Thabo Mbeki, we would say are scuttlebutts, purveyors of gossip, they have such a huge following? They land up in all sorts of legal problems from time to time, as you are seeing with Musa Kaula, but many, many people continue to follow them. Give me a call. The number to dial 086 000 2032, as well as your WhatsApp voice notes. I'll take those on 061 410 4107.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy coming into Joburg off the Vaal again this morning. Today it's a truck crash on the R59 at the Reading interchange, just where you sort of link into the tunnel to get onto the N12 East. So heavy traffic pressure coming through from as far back as Swartkoppies Road. If you know your alternative routes, that'd be a good call. Busy coming out of Four Ways, loads of traffic lights down, including Main and Robin, just south of that Main and Vickhoppen junction. So coming through Lone Hill or exiting from Four Ways on Vickhoppen through Main, it's all pretty heavily backed up. There's also some lights down on Pretoria, Solomon, Mashlangu and Delphi, so some delays leaving the Pretoria East area this morning. Coming out of Pietermaritzburg down to Durban, a crash around New England Road. Now that's causing a very heavy delay. Traffic parking back almost towards Church Street, back towards Chotamatala. So if you're coming down from Hilton on Town Hill, there's a really big backlog of traffic just south of that. Once you get past Chotamatala, you really are in the thick of it. So maybe a reroute through Pietermaritzburg and pop out the other side at the Market Road on-ramp, or push through to Ashburton perhaps. Also going into Pietermaritzburg, breakdown between Ashburton and Market Road, so some delays that side as well. Cape Town, pretty busy out of Mitchell's Plain. AZ Berman through the roadworks towards the R300. Velta Freden Road heading out of Mitchell's Plain to Philippi is quite slow. Bit of sand along Baden Powell at Monwa BC, and once you get past that on your way to Musenberg, just sluggish and queues down towards the Strandfontein area. Also a breakdown at Hospital Bend, just holding some traffic up on the N2 inbound. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
What's your vibe for 2025? Whether it's visiting family or hitting SA's most Insta-worthy spots, FlySafair is here to make it happen with 30% off flights. That's right, for today only, join the hottest New Year sale around and enjoy 30% off domestic flights for travel until 25 October this year. It's your year to thrive, vibe and make those travel dreams come alive. Book at flysafair.co.za. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Defending champions Bayer Leverkusen want to stay close to the log leaders, while Borussia Mönchengladbach are navigating a path to the top four. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch Bayer Leverkusen versus Borussia Mönchengladbach on Saturday, 18 January at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
I feel great, I feel nice. Kasha, what's the score? We're coiling on the highest, the summer level. What's the score? It's the Nandi sessions with Mr. Showdem. It's the fa of live music. It's the go on SABC Plus. Catch the JR Feel Good sessions at 6 Fridays only on SABC 1. Mzansi for sure.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let me take a quick call from Mfundo in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Mfundo. You want to talk to me about social media and work?
Yes, good morning to us.
Yes, good morning.
And SAFM listeners. First thing, my understanding or my strategy is that if the company didn't provide me with a cell phone or with a mobile phone, then no one is allowed to have my number at my website. Because then they don't hold any rights to demand my number. They don't hold any rights to demand me to go in the WhatsApp groups and all that. Give me a call if you want, or communicate me via email.
Oh wow!
Up until the company give me the mobile phone, then that phone will be entirely for the work-related matters.
All right. Got you, Mfundo. So playing it safe there. That's Mfundo in Cape Town. Playing it safe and saying basically, until the company provides me with a work phone, no one is even allowed to have my number, let alone reach out to me and communicate with me via WhatsApp.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
All right, let's turn to matters of education now. As learners return to school, they are likely, some of them, to find broken windows, schools damaged by storms or looted by criminals, overcrowded classes and dilapidated school infrastructure. These conditions are mostly found in township schools and often leave parents worried about the safety of their children, township and village schools, that is. The conditions also make teaching and learning difficult. Let's bring into the conversation Professor Gezani Baloyi, who is the head of quality assurance at the University of South Africa. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. We had the national norms, minimum norms and standards published in 2013 already, with clear targets and clear definitions of what a school should look like in South Africa. In 2025, how close or how far are we from that objective in terms of some of the schools in townships and in rural areas?
Hey, good morning, Thulas, and good morning to your listeners. Thank you very much for inviting me to your show. Actually, you're quite right. The infrastructure within schooling system is becoming a growing issue. Now we are also bringing in an element of norms and standards. Schools have norms and standards, and in those norms and standards, there is also the so-called a budget plan. So therefore, school principals and the stakeholders have to make it a point that the infrastructure within the schooling systems should be maintained. Of course, schools were damaged by storms, ceiling is falling, paint is raining, broken windows, broken toilets, and broken doors. Of course, quality teaching and learning will not be a reality, and as such, we will compromise the quality education systems, notwithstanding the fact that a large amount of this country's budget is spent on education. But how do we direct these resources for quality teaching and learning?
What are the most common manifestations of poor school infrastructure? I know that the natural tendency, because of recent incidents and events, of course, the loss of lives of young people at schools, we tend to focus initially on, toilets, the existence or otherwise of pit toilets. But I imagine that it goes beyond that. There are other manifestations of poor infrastructure in schools.
Yes, of course, like I've indicated, the paint is raining, broken windows, broken toilets, broken doors, and so on. But there are also other challenges like school safety, which is also compromising quality teaching and learning. And also of late, we're also talking about placement of learners and also migration of people moving from rural areas to the urban areas. So vandalism is also there. So it is important to have a visionary leadership in schooling system. A good school with a good infrastructure rise within good leadership and also rises within good governance, and it also rises within ethical leadership. So these challenges are concerning. Of course, it will not promote the culture of teaching and learning, in my opinion.
Yeah, what are the implications of that? If a school has not been maintained in the sense that the broken window has not been replaced, you can only imagine that things such as catering for growing pupil numbers are perhaps pushed all the way to the back burner. What does that result in terms of the experience of pupils and teachers in schools?
Of course, there will be a negative teaching and learning, and also negative experience. I think we need also to factor in continuous professional development of teachers and also other stakeholders within school system to counter this. I think this is also crucial. We are also talking about national development planning and the Vision 2030. I mean, under these circumstances, of course, this will not be a reality. And we also have global imperatives like Sustainable Development Goals. By 2030, we need to have a quality education, that is quality teaching and learning. We have also Agenda 2063. Of course, all of these things need good governance, need ethical leadership of school management and also the stakeholders. So this is also crucial.
Yeah. All right. I've got to thank you for your time this morning. A crucial conversation for us to have at the start of the school year. That's Professor Gezani Baloyi, who is Head of Quality Assurance and Enhancement and also part of the College of Graduate Studies at the University of South Africa. That brings us to 7 a.m. Let's check in with Ann Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, South Africa welcomes Israel-Hamas ceasefire agreement and more than 200 illegal miners brought to the surface at Stilfontein mine. Good morning. South Africa's welcomed the ceasefire agreement reached between Israel and Hamas after 15 months of what the Department of International Relations referred to as Israel's genocidal onslaught in Gaza in the aftermath of Hamas' attack on October the 7th, 2023. South Africa further called for the implementation of a just and lasting peace that ensured the human rights of both Palestinians and Israelis were protected and promoted. Showen Bryce Peace reports.
DIRCO's statement said the agreement was a crucial first step towards ending the severe humanitarian crisis faced by over 2 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, pointing to the International Court of Justice decision that had deemed the situation plausibly genocidal, as it further considers South Africa's case against Israel. South Africa called for the provisional measures handed down by the World Court to be adhered to by the occupying power, arguing that international and humanitarian law needed to be respected and upheld. The government urged that all obstacles to the delivery of humanitarian aid be lifted immediately and unconditionally.
Police say a cage will be lowered underground at Shaft 11 in Stilfontein this morning to verify reports by community volunteers that there are no longer any illegal miners underground. The volunteers reported that there are no illegal miners underground apart from some human remains that they could not manage to bring to the surface. Police spokesperson Ethlenda Martes says they will only be able to verify this after lowering a cage underground. Meanwhile, police say a total of 246 illegal miners who were still alive were brought to the surface from Monday to Wednesday. A total of 78 bodies were retrieved in that period. Nursing organisation Donosa in Limpopo has commended the health authorities for rescinding their decision to reopen the Gatshwene clinic near Buakgomo. The clinic was closed last week after the abduction and rape of 2 nurses. The Donosa's Provincial Secretary Jacob Malopo says the decision to keep the clinic closed was taken in the best interests of the workers.
We want to confirm that we met with the department on Monday at the clinic where we also engaged with the staff. The meeting was attended by the royal family, the royal house, including the clinic committee. But out of that meeting, the department was eager to open the clinic. As the organization, we made an input to the department based on our assessment that it is premature to reopen the clinic, looking at the impact of the incident on the staff, because most of the staff, they were still traumatized.
The University of Witwatersrand's SRC President Nombululelo Chias says the university currently has student debt of 1.6 billion rand. Chia was speaking at the launch of the SRC Trust Fund at the university in Bloemfontein. The initiative aims to eradicate the persistent challenge of financial exclusion brought on by poverty and to ensure quality education for all South Africans. She says the university aims to raise 30 million rand to address student debt.
And the current student debt that is at Wits University is 1.6 billion. And it's not only the issue of Wits. We have a huge crisis in terms of student debts that exist across the entire nation. And hence we have to come forward with these different issues or these different solutions in the picture to solve these issues. So at Wits, we are currently sitting at 1.6 billion. We are aiming to raise the 30 million to address these issues of registration that currently stands in hand in the current moment. However, we don't aim to end there. We aim to go even further, to be able to ensure that we assist even other students that are going to come after.
Meanwhile, Wits Vice Chancellor Simelane Vilakazi says the institution is committed to assist as many academically talented students as possible.
We sometimes have contestations over demands, but we are now entering a new path where we will jointly work together to ensure that we find a systemic solution to the issue of those that actually are too poor to afford below a certain band, and of course do not qualify for the National Financial Student Aid Scheme. So this initiative is not about just solving problems for now, but creating a future.
And finally, dozens of global medical experts are calling for a radical overhaul in the way obesity is determined to avoid overdiagnosis and undue stigma. Obesity is estimated to affect more than 1 billion people worldwide. The BBC's Dominic Hughes has the details.
The Body Mass Index, or BMI, which measures the ratio of height to weight, is currently used to diagnose obesity. But the measure doesn't distinguish between body fat and muscle and reveals nothing about the state of someone's health. The Lancet Commission on Clinical Obesity is calling for a more nuanced approach. It suggests that other assessments, waist-height ratios or direct fat measurement and a detailed medical history can give a much clearer picture than BMI and could lead to better focused treatments with improved results.
Recapping the top stories, South Africa's welcomed the ceasefire agreement reached between Israel and Hamas after 15 months of what the Department of International Relations referred to as Israel's genocidal onslaught in Gaza in the aftermath of Hamas' attack on the 7th of October 2023. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
This January, to save money, you could cut back on the family price, or you could switch to Outsurance and save on your car insurance premium. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash, and make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy to Joburg, using the R59 this morning. A truck crash at the Reading interchange. That's the R59 N12. Just as you sort of approach the tunnel section there, it's pushed a queue all the way back through to Swart Copies Road. N1 North, Bayers Nordero up to William Mandela looks fairly slow and sluggish this morning. And we saw this yesterday, seeing it again this morning. Old Joburg Road through Centurion towards Mapani Road, really sort of central Centurion areas, from very heavy traffic through that region. Protesting a gig in Gluvu, northern parts of KZN. Truck used to, well, by the protesters to block the N12. The truck is being commandeered, put across the N2, highway, beg your pardon, the N2, in that Ging and Gluvu area, just by Bridge 12. So if you know where that is, between Mpangeni and Ging, that's where the truck is blocking the roadway, both north and southbound, being obstructed. Very heavy coming out of Pietermaritzburg on your way to Durban. A crash before Market Road, pushing a heavy queue back towards Chotamotala. The N3 going up to Pietermaritzburg has a stationary truck after Ashburton, so that's quite a heavy queue as well. And Cape Town this morning, fairly busy, particularly out of Mitchell's Plain. Those routes going north, all three of them. AZ Berman, M7, Velstreden Drive, all very heavy. And queues on the N1 this morning, going to sit from Plattekloof Hill through to about Kuburg at a change. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. It's Soccer News. Kaizer Chiefs are seeking redemption, and that's when they take on Sekhukhune United in Durban. We also have rugby. Pepsi Buthelezi admitting the Sharks will have their work cut out for them against Bordeaux. Details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning, folks. We're into the second hour of the morning brief. It's just gone 9 minutes after 7. Let me tell you what's coming up on the show within this hour. Firstly, we'll have a conversation around you and I guess we can agree at this point that we have a water supply, challenge at the very least, if not a crisis in this country. The disruptions to water flow in major cities and towns, and also the lack of supply in rural areas and other places. So with electricity, it was easy. Well, not easy. Inconvenient, but we made do. You make a plan, you get a solar panel, you put it on your roof, you buy a generator, you make that sacrifice, etc., that investment. But it seems it's a bit more tricky and complicated when it comes to installing alternatives for water supply. There are all these regulations, such as bylaws, environmental laws, and how that your systems may affect groundwater and the likes. So we have that coming up in just a moment, that conversation coming up in just a moment. Then we'll be talking to the Sunday Times investigative journalist Thulasizwe Simelane off the back of concerns by Jika himself, but also the Sunday Times about the possibility that he could be facing arrest. At the very least, they are viewing it as intimidation of a journalist, following a series of stories that Thulasizwe has been doing about a senior official in the Department of Basic Education who is married to the former chaplain general of the ANC, Vukile Mehana. That story seems to have grown legs and now has implications for Thulasizwe himself in as far as interactions with the law are concerned. Thulasizwe will speak to us within the next few minutes. And then I've been asking you about this, the National Gambling Board warning consumers that, to not fall for the temptation of thinking that in January you can make easy money through gambling, because there are pitfalls. The board says gambling should never be defined as a source of income or to make ends meet. And I've been asking you if you are among those South Africans who placed an unbelievable 1.1 trillion rands worth of bets in the 2023-2024 financial year. Give me a call. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes to 061 410 4107. All of your regulars again locked and loaded in this hour. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
What's your vibe for 2025? Whether it's visiting family or hitting SA's most Insta-worthy spots, FlySafair is here to make it happen with 30% off flights. That's right, for today only, join the hottest New Year sale around and enjoy 30% off domestic flights for travel until 25 October this year. It's your year to thrive, vibe and make those travel dreams come alive. Book at flysafair.co.za. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Whether you're having a early, snoozy, tantrumy, chill, frustrating, or jokey morning, mornings love McDonald's, so choose happy and enjoy a Burry Burger double and a short filter coffee for only R39.90 from 6 to 10:30 a.m. at McDonald's.
The Bees want to be all over the pitch and keep the 3 points on home ground.
It could be 5 to Brentford. There's Wishes in here. Brentford have got 5 goals at St Mary's.
Meanwhile, the Reds want to emphasize that they will never walk alone, but with victory.
Lovely ball. Gakpo. Goal! Brilliant as well, as ever, from Cody Gakpo.
This is the Premier League, striving for excellence. Experience the glittering encounter between Brentford FC and Liverpool FC on Saturday, 18 January at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This January, to save money, you could cut back on your child's birthday party pack goodies, or you could switch to Outsurance and save on your car insurance premium. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash, and make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, so let's start with this story. Experts are warning South Africans to adhere to bylaws when utilizing alternative water sources. South Africa is facing a water crisis in many rural and urban areas, and when many people look for solutions to supply water, they may overlook the law. Let's bring into the conversation now Aisha Laher, who is a director at AHL Water and a water expert. Good morning to you, Aisha, and thank you for your time. I had not really, to be honest, considered the many layers of regulation and other considerations that go into installing an alternative water source that many of us are starting to look into. Just before we get into those complications and layers, tell me about our understanding of the extent to which South Africans are turning to alternative water supply sources.
Good morning to Thulasizwe and your listeners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this subject. I think as we are facing the water crisis, in particular in Gauteng, people are looking for alternative water sources and would definitely look into using boreholes, groundwater or rainwater. But in many rural areas, the use of groundwater and rainwater harvesting is part of everyday life, because there is no other alternatives and they have intermittent supplies anyway. So I think the use of alternative supply has been proficient all over in rural areas, but more and more people in the urban areas are trying to get on an alternative source due to the challenges that we have.
Yeah, and you're also now warning about you can't just simply drill a borehole. There's a whole layer of complexity that goes into it. Just talk to me about some of those complexities around such installations as boreholes, but also water retention tanks and the likes.
Okay, so for example, if you would like to extract water from the ground and use borehole water, you can use it for personal use without applying for a water use license. So in your private capacity as a homeowner, you are allowed to drill a borehole. However, this is subject to local bylaws. And the problem to us is that the local bylaws vary from one municipality to the next. So, for example, if you are in the city of Johannesburg, you are required to drill the borehole for yourself, but also register the borehole with the municipality and inform them of the fact that you have a borehole and you're using it for your personal reasons. However, if you are using water for commercial properties, that is a whole other kettle of fish, because then you have to apply for authorizations because it is now commercial use.
Why is there so much regulation around, if we stick with boreholes, for example? Does it have to do with issues to do with water quality, the likelihood of further damage, sinkholes and the likes?
Yeah. So look, the groundwater is owned by the government. So the Department of Water and Sanitation is the custodian of our water resources, is the owner of all the water. So you apply for that, for the use of that water in a sustainable manner. And as I've said, if it's on your private property, you are allowed to use it within certain limits, obviously, for yourself. But the overuse of groundwater, which is a precious natural resource, is not only dependent on what you do on your property. We cannot see the extent of an aquifer, Thulasizwe, because on the ground we can see how much water we have in a dam. You do not know if that aquifer extends a few meters, a few hundred meters, or a few thousand kilometers. And the issue is all the users of that groundwater are then connected to that groundwater source. So if one person depletes that groundwater source or contaminates that groundwater source, you can have major implications. So you end up with deteriorating groundwater quality. You can have over-extraction of water, which is a big issue. If you're living near the ocean and you end up depleting the aquifer, you can get salt water that intrudes into that aquifer, and then it damages the water quality and no one can use it.
All right.
And in areas like Johannesburg, wherever, we have to be cognizant of the fact that there is issues of acid mine drainage, there is issues of other sources of contamination that can end up there, and I don't even want to tell you what the implications are if we have contamination of large aquifers by this.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for your input this morning. That's Aisha Laher, who is director at AHL Water and a water expert. Certainly food for thought as we grapple with the water crisis that so many parts of our country are facing.
Ethical is what defines our business. I think Outsurance does have integrity. They are not just there for the money, they're there to create a relationship. It's like a partner in business. It's the best thing we've ever done to switch over to Outsurance. It's a no-brainer.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
7:20. Let's turn to this story. The intimidation of journalists has once again reared its ugly head. The latest incident involves Sunday Times investigative journalist Thanduxolo Jika, who says he has been threatened with arrest and intimidated by police after a case was opened against him. According to Jika, the case was opened by someone that he's recently written about and writing a series of articles based on allegations of corruption. Let's speak to Thanduxolo Jika now, who joins me on the line. Good morning to you, Thanduxolo. So, from what I understand, in fact, you will tell the story. What have the police done that is leading you to believe that there's a case of intimidation of a journalist here?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and to your listeners. Essentially, I'm now a suspect in relation to alleged harassment and intimidation of Reverend Vukile Mehana and his wife, Dr. Naledi Mbude Mehana, who is Deputy General in the Education Department, simply because I had, in December, approached them in relation to the articles I was writing relating to Sizwe Africa contracts in the Education Department in the Eastern Cape, where there was a payout of 330 million to Sizwe Africa. Now, Dr. Mbude was at some point the head of Eastern Cape Education Department, and Reverend Mehana was the executive chairman at Sizwe Africa. The story was born out of a letter that was sent by the Hawks to the Education Department, requesting the Education Department to give them certain details in relation to this contract. Some of those details relate to Dr. Mbude's declaration of interest for those periods, 2020-21 up until 2023. I approached them for comment on this, and also the second story was in relation to them selling their mid-rent house for 23 million. I also I'm required by the press code to approach them for comment, and the natural law requires me to be fair and just. For me to have
Here, the other side,
and fair publication. And with that, with doing that, and refusing to heed to their pleas that I should not publish any of these stories, they then decided to go and open a case of intimidation at Midrand Police Station on the 13th of December.
So someone listening to this will say, if the police are asking you, which I believe is the case, to come and make a warning statement, they are simply doing their job. How does that, in your mind, given the background that you've just given, how does it amount to intimidation of a journalist?
Look, Thulas, as I have said, I'm required by the press code to give any person I'm writing about a right of reply for reasonable and fair publication. Now, there is nowhere the two individuals are saying how I am intimidating them or harassing them. But given that, they have adequate remedies in a civil case, because intimidation and harassment should be a civil matter. Police resources are already stretched enough. I mean, last year already, the police minister was talking about how SAPS lacks tools of trade. Midrand police, Midrand as an area as well, has one of the most highest violent crimes in Gauteng, with aggravated robberies, carjacking, etc. Now, police resources are diverted to pursue a case of intimidation and harassment that is not even a criminal matter, but a civil matter. Essentially, that to me means that, pressure is being exerted for me to back off from doing my work.
Lastly, Thandukolo, and very briefly, will you be subjecting yourself to this process of going to the police station, making a warning statement, and do you believe you'll be arrested?
Absolutely. We have engaged the lawyers at Arena Holdings, and we are cooperating. A warning statement we have prepared, and we will cooperate with law enforcement.
All right, we'll continue to track that story. That's Thandukolo Chika, an investigative journalist at the Sunday Times.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
I've got to mention that we reached out to the South African Police Service through their official spokespersons, and we have not heard back from them on that case, that issue with Thandukolo Chika there. But certainly we will take it as soon as they're able to engage with us on that matter. To this now, the National Gambling Board has warned consumers not to fall for the temptation of thinking that they can make easy money through gambling. The board says gambling should never be defined as a source of income or to make ends meet. It says this mindset is dangerous, as gambling is never a sure thing, but rather a risk taken with money that consumer can often ill afford to lose. Let's speak now to Lynette Kamineth, who is the Communications and Stakeholder Engagement Manager at the National Gambling Board. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So this talks to nuances around why people engage in gambling. We've been reporting about the large numbers of bets that have been placed by people over the past year. The issue of gambling as a means of income, a source of income, or to make ends meet, how prevalent is that?
Morning, Thulasizwe, and to your listeners. So, as you've indicated, we've seen quite a large increase in what we call gambling turnover, 40% increase. And this is the money that's wagered by our gamblers. So, just from the figures, you can already see that gambling seems to be more prevalent in South Africa. Obviously, out of that is, in terms of revenue, there's been a 25% increase for our gambling operators. We also do, Thulasizwe, every second year we do a sort of very in-depth survey of our consumers, and even in that we're picking up that a lot more people are indicating that they do gamble. So we are sort of very concerned at this stage that the increase in numbers is indicating that people are gambling more, which is not necessarily a problem, but when it becomes an addiction or when people are gambling for the wrong reasons. Gambling as a source of income is one of those red flags, because obviously it's never a sure thing. You're taking a risk with your money. And especially this time of the year, it is quite a big concern for us.
Is there a sense that the ease with which bets can be placed, particularly in the digital age, has contributed to some of this? That someone is sitting at home and looking at and doing the maths and looking at their income and their expenses and saying, I need a cash injection of one kind or another. Let me just try my luck. And perhaps they place a bet because it has become easier and easier to do that. Is there something there to be said for updating regulations to keep up with the ease with which bets can be placed?
Definitely. I think we have seen from our research that people are more inclined to go to the online forms of gambling. And just to highlight to your listeners that online gambling in South Africa is actually still illegal. It's only online betting that is allowed. But even in that online betting space, it's actually grown like tripled. And it's actually overtaken our casino gambling mode as well. So it is something that is a concern for us. It is something that, in terms of legislation, which we do know moves quite slowly, but it is something that needs to be legislated in one form or another. And yeah, just, in terms of the concerns about people gambling for the wrong reasons. So when our initial legislation was put in place, the intention was for gambling to be a leisure activity, a form of entertainment. So any other form of entertainment, example, going to the movies, you won't do that if you don't have the money for it. So you shouldn't also be gambling if you don't have extra cash. Once you've done all your bills and all your commitments that you have, seen to your family's well-being, then you use that money to gamble for leisure.
Yeah.
As soon as gambling is done as a source of income, it is definitely a red flag, and it also increases the possibility of someone becoming addicted.
All right. Thank you for those words of warning. Thank you for that. That's Lynette Kameneth, who is the Communications and Stakeholder Engagement Manager at the National Gambling Board. Let's check in now with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, Trade Federation COSATU says there has been blatant disregard for the national minimum wage by some employers. The federation is cautioning that it's illegal for employers to pay their employees less than R27.58 per hour. South Africa's welcomed the ceasefire agreement reached between Israel and Hamas after 15 months of what the Department of International Relations referred to as Israel's genocidal onslaught in Gaza in the aftermath of Hamas' attack on the 7th of October 2023. And the biggest economy in the European Union, Germany, shrank last year for the second year in a row. Initial calculations show the GDP fell by 0.2%. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Pretty heavy out of Joburg's four-ways area this morning. William Mandela down towards Sloane via the highway. Vidcop and across from William Mandela to Main. Main coming through from Lone Hill down through towards Bryanston. A couple of traffic lights out around that area. Same sort of deal with Malabongwe Drive. Hardly a traffic light working between Kaya Sound and Straighten Park. And that run down through the highway in towards the Straighten Park area is extremely heavily backed up. Also some lights down today. Paul Kruger at John Foster. That's causing really big delays northbound if you're coming from sort of Hendrik Potgieter side up along that Paul Kruger Road. Really heavy, really long queues. Big traffic as well into the Thulasizwe Park area using the R59. It's a real mess down there. A truck crash at the Reading interchange, at 12 Reading interchange. Really heavy coming through from Swakopis on the highway. But once you get through that, then you're dealing with traffic lights out. R59 at South Rand at Tennyson, Voortrekker, Heidelberg at South Rand. It's a real mess. Just getting out of that area. If you're in from the Vaal, it'd be better just to move across, use the R82. Go in, no hassles really that way, apart from normal traffic volumes. Pinetown, lights are out. M7 at Bevis this morning. Really big traffic getting up from the Hunts Detman side as you come up from North Dean and North Park into Pinetown. Going into Pietermaritzburg, a breakdown between Ashburton and Market Road. Still heavy backlogs going there. The R103, the alternative route up through Polly Shorts into Pietermaritzburg, also taking a bit of diverting traffic pressure going slowly. And Cape Town this morning, M2 inbound from Robert Sobukwe through to Hospital Bend, fairly tight. A lot of traffic on Marine Drive at Sunset Beach, at Milnerton, at Pardon Island, and a big unusual queue coming off Plattekloof Road, N7 South, banged up all the way down to Bosmansdam Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you once again, Zai. So, typical how we do this, you give me a signal of what you will be leading with in your bulletin. I'll tell you now, Zai, I'm not going to walk into a trap. So the first part of what you're telling me about Kaizer Chiefs, I'm not mentioning. I'm leaving that to you. All I will say is Kaizer Chiefs are seeking redemption this Sunday. Nothing about this 9 years and stuff.
No. I mean, win or lose, they want to show that, you know what, that they are looking forward to figuring out how they're going to rebuild. They want to win this match. And I just have to say, the only thing consistent about Kaizer Chiefs has been their inconsistency. That's all I'm going to leave it there for. What? Listen. They are under the spotlight is Chiefs, but they are facing a red-hot Sekhukhune United in Durban come Sunday. Now, you know, Chiefs' form have been very inconsistent, sitting 6th on the table with 5 wins, 3 draws and 5 losses. The defence shaky, conceding the second most goals in the league so far, while Sekhukhune United are flying high in 3rd place after 4 wins and a draw in their last 5 games. Now, Congolese striker Andy Biela will be the key threat coming off a hat-trick performance. Kickoff is at 3:30 at the Moses Mabhida Stadium on Sunday. Let's get a reaction now from the head coach. That's Arsenal's head coach Mikel Arteta, as his side came from behind to win the North London derby against Tottenham 2-1.
I think we were sensational. It was a good test to see after 2 big performances and not getting rewarded in 2 different competitions. You have to play the biggest game of the season for our people in those conditions. And it's a test of attitude, you know, what we are made of, the courage that we have, how much we really care only about a result or the performance, and how much we can do in terms of what is required in the game to be better than the position.
Cricket, Luandri Pretorius proving to be the teenage sensation for the SA20 tournament, fresh off receiving his matric results. The 18-year-old smashed 83 runs of 52 balls, including 8 boundaries and 3 sixes, leading the Paarl Royals to a 6-wicket victory over MI Cape Town in Paarl. The Royals chased down 159 with 6 balls to spare, despite a late game scare after Pretorius was run out. Captain David Miller composed 24 runs, which sealed the win. Let's hear from Paarl Royal captain David Miller.
He's something very special. I haven't seen a lot of young players play the way that he does. Just, you know, the free flow, the back flow. He plays very late. He plays short ball really well. Plays spin well. And yeah, I mean, he's a really good thinker about the game. So it's great to have him part of the setup and obviously contributing and putting in match-winning performances for us. So very, very lucky to have him.
Rugby now, Pepsi Buthelezi admitting the Sharks will have their work cut out against Bordeaux on Sunday. The Sharks go into their final Investec Champions Cup pool fixture on the back of a 28-home defeat to Toulouse. The best John Plumtree's team can hope for now is to stay 4th in the 6-team pool, would still be good enough to qualify for the round of 16. Let's go to the story. South African road running star Gerda Steyn welcoming the expectations that come with joining the Hollywood Athletics Club. The Comrades and Two Oceans Marathon record holder was officially unveiled as the club's latest elite member in Durban. Now, she seems unfazed by the prospect of breaking the Comrades and the Two Oceans Marathon.
Tomorrow's a long stage, over 300 kilometers of dunes.
Steyn remains unfazed by the prospect of breaking the Comrades as well as the Two Oceans Marathon records for a 3rd time, choosing to focus on winning the races first before concerning herself with the records.
Already, the ladies who's running the marathons now is getting closer and closer to the record time. So it's very exciting, and to me personally, I also feel like I've got room for improvement. So for as long as I possibly can, I'll keep pushing and I'll keep trying to improve my own time. Whether that means it's the national record or it's not anymore, I'll still try my best to improve on that time. For now, luckily it's still in my name, so I'll try to defend that sort of title also for as long as I possibly can. But to know that there is more talent coming through is very, very exciting, I believe. So it's something that our country has been waiting for quite a long time, to see that sort of depth that we have got now.
And that's how we wrap up sports on the Morning Brief. We'll have more for you at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again, Dowling. We start this hour with news out of the banking sector in the United States. You're saying that major banks there closed 2024 on a high. Dowling? Okay, hold on a second. Let's take that again. You're saying that major banks in the United States closed 2024 on a high.
That's right, Thulasizwe. U.S. earnings season has kicked off. The banks starting things. The fourth quarter proving to be a stellar period four banks as these counters delivered upbeat numbers. The four largest banks, JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, and Goldman Sachs, had their second most profitable year ever, with profits boosted by interest rate changes and investment banking fees. Zooming on each bank, JP Morgan Chase became the first bank in U.S. history to top $50 billion in annual profits. Citigroup's wealth, U.S. personal banking and services segments posted record revenue, while Wells Fargo, with the smallest Wall Street presence, saw a 62% boost in annual revenue from investment banking, and Goldman Sachs' equities trading division delivered record top-line growth. Now, these gains were partly driven by Trump's election win and hints about policy, which caused market swings. Stronger than expected jobs numbers also played a role, changing expectations for future interest rate cuts. More numbers from banks will be released today, with Morgan Stanley and Bank of America under the spotlight.
I don't know this company and Dowling that you're about to tell us about. I know the Karoo in South Africa with two O's. This one is Karoo. Oh, is
Karoo with five.
With lots of O's. Or is it zeros?
It's O's. It's O's. You're right about that. So it's Karoo with 5 O's. And they own CarTrack. So the vehicle tracking company CarTrack, they own that. They also own a logistics company called Pickup. And they're listed on both the JSE and the NASDAQ. They've delivered double-digit profit growth in the third quarter of their financial year, with earnings rising 21%. The upbeat performance was driven by strong growth in its vehicle tracking and logistics businesses. The group's subscription revenue rose 14% to just over R1 billion, with CarTrack's subscription revenue growing by a similar percentage. Its logistics business, Pickup, saw a 20% increase in revenue. Now, the group's CEO, Zakalisto, said the results were driven by strong customer acquisition and expansion of its distribution capabilities. He added that the group's investment in Europe was starting to yield exciting results. Looking ahead, Karoo says it is aggressively expanding in Southeast Asia, where it sees rather significant growth potential. The region's subscription revenue grew 26% on a constant currency basis, making it the group's biggest medium to long-term opportunity. Callisto stated that Karoo aims to become the largest player in Southeast Asia's vehicle tracking and telematics software market within the next decade. It currently has the largest market share, around 60%, in Singapore, so it's looking to just expand that throughout the region.
Karoo with 5 O's. Right, Dowling, please give us another recap of the markets.
So it's a sea of green all round, with markets upbeat following yesterday's US CPI print. Asian stocks jumping on the bandwagon, trading in the green this morning, with the Hong Kong Hang Seng up close to 0.5%. Risks remain, though, on that front as traders await Chinese GDP figures, which will be released tomorrow. In the U.S., futures pretty flat, but despite yesterday's strong close, investors will be eyeing more earnings from the banking sector on that front. And then coming back home, stocks showing an improved performance. The all-share closing 1.7% higher in yesterday's trading session. The upbeat sentiment also playing out in the currency scene this morning as the rand trades stronger at 18.83 to the dollar.
Always with her eye on the money, that's Ndauling Lechela. She'll be back with one more update for you just before the resumption of trade for this Thursday on the JSE, and that's after 8:30 here on the Morning Brief.
After a 0-0 draw at Orlando in December, the Northern and Southern African Giants meet again. The Red Devils want to create a happy mood for their fans, but the Buccaneers want to destroy the Pyramids by collecting maximum points. This is the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Witness the incredible flavor of African football. Al Ahly Sporting Club versus Orlando Pirates FC on Saturday, 18 January at 6 p.m. live on SABC2. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the
Africa Update on SAFM.
For that, let's turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you, Raz. So, Daniel Chapo, firmly in office, sworn in, and while the disgruntlement with the election results and dissatisfaction continues, he continues and forges on with the governance agenda.
Absolutely, Thulas. Sort of refreshing morning to the listeners in Jumbo Africa. Thulas, when you look at the inauguration of yesterday, at a very low chin note, considering that you'll expect an inauguration to be in a big stadium, you'll have dignitaries, presidents, the SADC chair, Snapkit, Dambuzo Mnangagwa was not there, Samia Sulu was not there, Umbalo from Guinea-Bissau and President Ramaphosa were the only heads of state. It reminds you of Mnangagwa's inauguration of 2018. Now, when you look, Chapo has said to us he wants to deal with the corruption in the state. He wants to reduce the cabinet, actually the deputy ministers. And that's why you have a bloated cabinet in most of the SADC member states. He wants to deal with the question of social cohesion, how to engage with other parties. And at the same time, the lawyers in Mozambique, the Bar Association, they've reminded him yesterday, saying the separation of powers are critical to us. He's already sitting on a contested seat where we are saying we have two tails of two presidents in one country. Venancio says tomorrow he'll be giving 100 days of his office. How will he go on? At the same time, you have protests going on in different cities and provinces of Mozambique. So, Thulas, I think this is a key question of what will happen post-inauguration. The SADC panel of elders, the role of South Africa, with the presence of President Ramaphosa yesterday, should be seen what will be the outcome.
Yeah, and my sense of these things, when I say is that it's hard, once a person has been sworn in, it's hard to unscramble that egg. Usually you have to find a different kind of solution.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the Indian Ocean island of Comoros. This is more than a two-thirds majority, is it? 28
Absolutely.
parliamentary seats out of 33 for the ruling party.
Convention for the Renewal of the Comoros Party, led by President Azali Usman, retained its majority in the parliament. As we have said, out of 33 seats, we have 28. They have got an overwhelming two-thirds. And remember, I said it during the week, there was a boycott by opposition. So you might say that this was also an advantage to the ruling party, but now we'll see what will happen, because once you have more power in parliament, you are able to change policies and laws. But we'll see how will opposition return in terms of their engagement with the government of President Azali Usman.
Some good news coming out of the Horn of Africa. Tell me about Ethiopia and Somalia burying the hatchet.
Absolutely. Remember last year during this time, we were talking about the Simari conflict between Somalia and Ethiopia around the Somaliland. I spoke about it extensively at some point about the mediation of cases, but the AU is happy that there was a visit over this weekend of the president of Somalia, Hassan Sheikh, to meet with Abiy Ahmed. And that's where they are now developing the issue of engaging now on the issue of dealing with the crisis that was in the Somaliland, and as well as the great mega dam of Ethiopia. So there is a relation now between Ethiopia and Somalia.
And in Southern Africa, tell me about the border between South Africa and Botswana being closed.
Grobler's Bridge Thulas has been closed yesterday, and this is what I'll call the trade route. It's a copper belt region that's straggling between Lusaka and DRC, moving to KwaZulu-Natal. Now, yesterday they have to close it Thulas due to the heavy rainfall and flooding, and this has been pushed by the Border Management Authority, BMA, connecting with the colleagues from Gaborone to say that it is better the travelers and truck operators to use alternative routes. So it shows to us that we will be having plenty of rains in 2025, and that's how we should manage within our borders, and we should deal also with the issue of managing the crisis in big cities when we are flooding.
Lastly, take us through our historical archives. You're taking us to 16 January 1994. What happened?
This is what I call the turning point of the end of the armed conflict that was initiated by the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania in the early 60s after Sharpeville massacre. It also paved for the PAC to enter into the elections of 1994 when the late president of the PAC, Clarence Mlami Zikali Makwetu, announced that the PAC will suspend the armed struggle. And that's how it is important to us that we know the Azanian People's Liberation Army had to come back, be integrated into the army. The ANC also had to come back. So this was a very important move coming from the PAC, even if others they know that the PAC was never part of CORESA 1 and CORESA 2. They were part only of the World Trade Center talks. So this was an important moment for the country as well as for the Pan-Africanist Congress. Asante sana Thulas, the conversation, SAFM, observing the Education Month.
All right, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update here on the Morning Brief.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still heading into Joburg, coming up the R59. This is the run-in from the Vaal. It's a truck crash at the N12 Reading interchange, and then once you get through that enormous backlog, you're in trouble with multiple traffic lights out. Top of the R59, South Rand Road, and then as you go into sort of Talisa Park. Also staying that way, a crash on the N12 Southern bypass between Komaro, between the Glen and Clip River Drive. So if you're heading towards Soweto, there's some queuing pressure there. Crash at Buccleuch interchange, N1 North from Ravodia, N3 up from Alex. Both of those highways heavy, negotiating those ramps to get onto the N1 North return up to Midrand. Also crash on the Mike 1 South near Marlborough Drive this morning coming through from Woodmead. That's heavy. Four ways generally busy because of the traffic light failures there. Malabongwe Drive also traffic light fails between North Riding and Stratham Park, causing heavy backlogs. Durban bound coming out of Pietermaritzburg. The N3 is easing after an earlier crash down by Market Road. It has left a lot of traffic sort of diverting through Pietermaritzburg and trying to pop out the other side. So although the N3 is eased up, the R103 around Polly Shorts, that run to Ashburton or back up from Ashburton Heavy. There's a broken down truck on the N3 North after Ashburton, which is primarily forcing a lot of the northbound traffic onto that R103. Lights are down St John's Avenue at Bevis, so big backlogs coming into Pinetown this morning. And Cape Town, heavy on the N7. This is a bit unusual. The N7 south from Plattercliff Road down to Bosmansdam Road, although I must stress it is starting to ease there. And if you're around the R300, yesterday was fairly heavy coming up towards Cales River. None of that today, but there are a delay moving up through Brackenfell, R300 north into the N1. And just on your way to Stellenbosch, R304 Clipperville Road, the lights were down at Bottler Ray yesterday. They may still be down this morning. It's a big delay coming from the Justenburg side on that 304 towards Stellenbosch. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? At Specsavers, get a free pair of branded prescription sunglasses up to 3,200 Rand. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
At Business Outsurance, ensuring your business is our business. Switch to Business Outsurance today, and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Get affordable cover to protect your business against everyday risks. Get the best business insurance at the best price for your business. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
What's your vibe for 2025? Whether it's visiting family or hitting SA's most Insta-worthy spots, FlySafair is here to make it happen with 30% off flights. That's right, for today only, join the hottest New Year sale around and enjoy 30% off domestic flights for travel until 25 October this year. It's your year to thrive, vibe and make those travel dreams come alive. Book at flysafair.co.za. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Let's lead the conversations that move us. Let me speak to Ndlovu in the Eastern Cape. Good morning to you, Ndlovu. You want to talk to me about water restrictions this morning?
Thulas, good morning, and to the listeners, Thulas.
Yeah.
I don't think in this country we've got water supply problems, as indicated by some people here. I'll tell you why, Thulas. I live in the Eastern Cape. Okay? There are about, in the former Transkei area, there are about 4 big rivers that flow into the sea. Okay?
Yeah.
The first one, the Umtamvuna River, which flows into the Port Edward area, Margate area. Not a single dam has been sourced, so that now the river, the water doesn't flow freely into the sea without being captured somewhere. Okay? You've got the Umzimvubu River. If you've seen it in the Port St. John's area where it flows into the sea in Port St. John's, it's massive. Where does it come from? it comes from the Drakensberg and flows through various towns and into the sea, not a single dam. And then, of course, there's the Umtata area, there's a dam there, Umtata Dam from the rivers around there. But the problem is, Thulas, why has this been allowed to happen for so long without sourcing the water so that now you create dams, big dams, to supply the villages with water and all of that and all of that.
I get
so
you.
the problem is not water supply, but it's, I don't know what to
Is
to
it
call it.
infrastructure? We're just not investing in the right infrastructure, are we?
In the right infrastructure to
Gotcha.
us. So we don't have that problem of water, but the government has also let this thing happen for so long without taking precautions so that now we get the water to supply the areas
Gotcha.
that need water.
So-
And I think if these things like this in the former Transkei, what about the other provinces?
Gotcha.
There are many rivers.
Right.
Have they been so that now there are dams to supply the people with water
All right,
in
Ndlovu,
those areas?
let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for that. That's Ndlovu there weighing in on issues to do with water. It is, of course, said that we are a water-scarce country, but the point he's making, without detracting from it, the need for investment in infrastructure, that is something that we have spoken about, that there needs to be better investment. But one of the things that has always puzzled me is just reuse of water, just cleaning up the water and reusing it. I just get a sense that, you know, areas like countries like Singapore are perhaps a model. Those people throw away nothing. Everything that can be reused will be cleaned up and processed properly and reused downstream one way or another. I don't think we do enough of that. We flush our toilets with clean drinkable water and have no way of how do you then recoup that water a bit later on. Let me take one or two of your WhatsApp voice notes that you've been sending this morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe and the SFM listeners. In life, you mustn't give someone power over you. Don't allow someone to intimidate you. I mean, I feel sad for the lady, but in the first 2 weeks, she was supposed to block that person who is a judge. That person would have understood better. Brian Mabai from Proteagland. Thank you for the great show to us.
Thank you for that. And I suppose part of the difficulty is that this is someone who's a senior at work. And that's one of the arguments that has been placed forward when she was asked about these interactions. This of course has to do with Judge Selbin Benenge and the hearing happening at the Judicial Conduct Tribunal. So it has to do with the power relationship between the two. I don't know how easy it can be for you to just decide, this person is sending me WhatsApps, I don't want to hear from them, despite the fact that they are much more senior, they head up the whole division. I'm actually going to block them on WhatsApp. It's a bit more tricky, I think, in as far as that employment relationship is concerned.
Morning, Thuliswa. Earlier from Durban. You know, I think Donald Trump has got a lot to do with the initiating the peace deal between Israel and Hamas. About a month ago, he phoned Netanyahu and told him that
I can't dispute that. I really cannot argue against that, because even before taking office, there has been, usually that's what happens anyway, that the incoming president will start assembling a team, have envoys for various situations around the world, and you are absolutely right that Donald Trump has been interacting with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. But we also can't downplay the current administration has also been active. Antony Blinken has been in and out of the Middle East, as well as neighbors within the Middle East region, Qatar being one of the examples, and I think Egypt as well being quite instrumental in the negotiations for this ceasefire.
In Thulas, speaking of emojis, you are very, very bad with those things. The other day, my friend was celebrating. I'd sent him a whole lot of emojis, and there was one with a coffin. My friend was very, very angry. I don't know how these emoji things translate out to some people. I always ask my children to show me how one can send them through without harming the other person. Emojis,
Navigate with care, right? Navigate with care, because you don't want to be sending. Lucian Pierce was talking about the peach and the brinjal. And now you send it to the wrong person, and once that has gone out, I don't know the extent to which you can quickly delete it. Our fingers, our thumbs, if you're typing with your thumb, our thumbs are quite big compared to the typing pads on our phones and those devices. But other than that, really, just be cautious. The emojis you send to people, what meaning are you seeking to communicate? And is it the appropriate meaning given the relationship that you have with that person? Thank you for that. We'll make time for a bit more of those engagements throughout the show. But for now, let's catch up with news with Ann Musa. And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident, and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43187.
In our top stories, COSATU's minimum wage warning to employers, and South Africa welcomes Israel-Hamas ceasefire agreement. Good morning. Trade Federation COSATU says there has been blatant disregard for the national minimum wage by some employers. The federation is cautioning that it's illegal for employers to pay their employees less than 27.58 rand per hour. A study by the National Minimum Wage Commission has found evidence of partial or lack of compliance by some employers. COSATU's Matthew Parks says the Department of Employment and Labour should ramp up inspections.
The Wage Act itself does provide for exemptions for employers who genuinely cannot afford it. So if a company and employer need to do basically three things. One is they should consult, or they must consult their employees, their unions. They can then apply for an exemption to the Department of Employment and Labour, and they just simply have to provide evidence of their financial difficulties. So it could be the bank statements, the financial statements, and so forth. And if they can prove that, yes, indeed, they can't afford it, they will be given an exemption for one financial year for up to 10% up in minimum wage. And about half of the companies who have applied for the exemption have received it.
South Africa's welcomed the ceasefire agreement reached between Israel and Hamas after 15 months of what the Department of International Relations referred to as Israel's genocidal onslaught in Gaza in the aftermath of Hamas' attack on the October 7th, 2023. South Africa further called for the implementation of a just and lasting peace that ensured the human rights of both Palestinians and Israelis were protected and promoted. Sharon Bryce-Peace reports.
DIRCO's statement said the agreement was a crucial first step towards ending the severe humanitarian crisis faced by over 2 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, pointing to the International Court of Justice decision that had deemed the situation plausibly genocidal, as it further considers South Africa's case against Israel. South Africa called for the provisional measures handed down by the World Court to be adhered to by the occupying power, arguing that international and humanitarian law needed to be respected and upheld. The government urged that all obstacles to the delivery of humanitarian aid be lifted immediately and unconditionally.
The bail application of two men accused of gunning down alleged Cape Town underworld kingpin Mark Liffman is expected to continue in the George Magistrates Court in the Western Cape today. The suspects, aged 37 and 53, were arrested hours after Liffman was gunned down in the parking lot at the Garden Route Mall on the 3rd of November last year. The bail hearing was postponed in December for the defense lawyers to consult with their clients. The University of the Witwatersrand's SRC President Nombulelo Chia says the university currently has student debt of 1.6 billion rand. Chia was speaking at the launch of the SRC Trust Fund at the university in Braamfontein. The initiative aims to eradicate the persistent challenge of financial exclusion brought on by poverty and to ensure quality education for all South Africans. She says the university aims to raise 30 million rand to address student debt.
And the current student debt that is at Wits University is 1.6 billion. And it's not only the issue of Wits. We have a huge crisis in terms of student debts that exist across the entire nation. And hence we have to come forward with these different issues or these different solutions in the picture to solve these issues. So at Wits, we are currently sitting at 1.6 billion. We are aiming to raise the 30 million to address these issues of registration that currently stands in hand in the current moment. However, we don't aim to end there. We aim to go even further, to be able to ensure that we assist even other students that are going to come after.
Meanwhile, Wits Chancellor Zeblon Vilakazi says the institution is committed to assist as many academically talented students as possible.
We sometimes have contestations over demands, but we are now entering a new path where we will jointly work together to ensure that we find a systemic solution to the issue of those that actually are too poor to afford below a certain band, and of course do not qualify for the National Financial Student Aid Scheme. So this initiative is not about just solving problems for now, but creating a future.
And finally, the biggest economy in the European Union, Germany, shrank last year for the second year in a row. Initial calculations show the GDP fell by 0.2%. The BBC's Damien McGuinness has the details.
High energy costs at home and low demand for German exports abroad are hitting German industry hard. Some firms have started shedding jobs, and unemployment could rise further if Donald Trump hits Germany with heavy tariffs. Added to this is political uncertainty. After months of internal bickering, Chancellor Scholz's coalition collapsed last year over a budget row, and next month Germany will hold crucial snap elections. This means that business confidence is low and consumers are not spending.
Recapping the top story, Trade Federation COSATU says there has been blatant disregard for the national minimum wage by some employers. The federation is cautioning that it's illegal for employers to pay their employees less than 27 Rand 58 cents per hour. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by OUTsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
The queue's getting out of Joburg on the run through the mid-rand this morning. Crash blocking a couple of lanes on the M1 North just after Buccleuch interchange. So you've got a big backlog on the N3 from Alex, a big backlog on the N1 from Four Ways. Those highways under pressure because as you come off them on those ramps to the N1 mid-rand towards Pretoria, if you like, you're basically driving straight into that crash. Nearby, collision, Mike 1 south at Marlborough Drive. Traffic parking back through to Woodmead. Crash on Grayston Drive going into Santon before Rivonia Road, so some slow-moving traffic there. Four Ways is busy, Straight and Parks and Bongway is heavy. All of that because of the just continuing problems, real big issues around traffic light operations in that part of Joburg. And the R59 North, that truck crash at Reading Interchange still causing a backlog as well. On your way up in towards Pietermaritzburg, we've had queues this morning from Ashburton going into Market Road. That stationary truck has been cleared. That is easing the N3 and hopefully it'll ease the R103 through Polly Shorts. That's also been busy with diverting pressure. A lot of traffic around Cape Town, so obviously school traffic, Rondebosch area, the main road, Belmont Road, Campground Road, all really jam-packed. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's cricket. The Proteas are gearing up for the ICC Champions Trophy with the Afghanistan match on the horizon. And in soccer, Kaizer Chiefs are seeking redemption on Sunday against Sekhukhune United. Details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning, folks. We are into the third hour of the morning brief on this Thursday here on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. It's good to be in your company. The conversation flowing in various streams this morning, among the key conversations we've been having, is really grappling with our conduct on platforms such as WhatsApp, particularly when that is used for communication with colleagues at work and the likes. And also being circumspect and cautious about the kind of emojis that you send. You wouldn't think that something that seems as innocuous as an emoji, that emoticon, that expression, those faces, those small faces that you send to emphasize a message, to convey meaning, to convey your emotion. You wouldn't think that those would have such consequences, but they do, as we are seeing in the Judicial Conduct Tribunal hearing into Judge President Selbin Benenge, which is playing itself out, and the exchange of emojis there is being examined extensively. And I've been asking you to weigh in on your interactions with colleagues around using WhatsApp, especially reaching out after hours, and especially with those colleagues that you wouldn't consider to be your friends as well, and how you use emojis with them. How cautious are you, given that we now know that there are real life consequences for this? I've also been asking you about whether or not you follow what I'm calling social media and digital media scuttlebutts, the purveyors of gossip on social media. This is, of course, in the context of Musa Khawula being arrested and being detained until a bail application on the 21st of January. That has to do with, some of what he published around one businessman, and now he's landed in a pile of trouble. The National Prosecuting Authority, among other things, opposing bail in that matter. We will have a conversation about internet connectivity in this hour. If you've gotten the sense that there have been times when your internet connection has been rather slow, you are not imagining things. It has to do with damage that has occurred over the last few months here and there across the African continent to the subsea cables, which are, quite critical for our internet connectivity. So we'll bring in a perspective on that within this hour. Give me a call on these and other topics. I see a lot of people reacting to the ceasefire in Gaza, a critical development, but also the operations to retrieve bodies as well as extract those miners who are still alive out in Stilfontein. The number to dial 086 000 2032, as well as your WhatsApp voice notes to the number 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Outsurance has another random fact for you. In 1998, a kid's 20 Rand pocket money meant a shopping spree at the school tuck shop. Now, they need about 70 Rand. The cost of living has gone up, but Outsurance is still committed to giving you big savings on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754 to switch and save today. Let's hear what real Outsurance clients have to say.
When you deal with Outsurance, it is effortless. They treated us like human beings.
With Outsurance, you always get something out. Outsurance has paid out more than 6 billion Rand in out bonuses. That's more than any other insurer.
With Outsurance, when you look at it, it sounds too good to be true, but it's good. It's true.
SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Whether you're having a early, snoozy, tantrumy, chill, frustrating, or jokey morning, mornings love McDonald's, so choose happy and enjoy a Burry Burger double and a short filter coffee for only 39 Rand 90 from 6 to 10:30 a.m. at McDonald's.
After a 1-0 draw in Morocco during the first 90 minutes, Masandawana and the leader are both hungry to wrap up the group campaign with a win. The South locks horns with the North. This is the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Witness the thrilling flavor of African football. Mamelodi Sundowns FC versus AS Farabat FC on Sunday, 19 January at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
What's your vibe for 2025? Whether you want to hit up South Africa's most Insta-worthy spots, visit family, or check out a new destination, FlySafAir's got you with 30% off domestic flights. That's right, for today only, get 30% off flights to all main SA destinations for travel right up until the 25th of October this year. Don't miss out. Head to flysafair.co.za now and make 2025 a vibe. Sale ends at midnight. FlySafAir, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's have that conversation. Let's start with Bond in Gqeberha. Good morning to you, Bond. You want to react to the ceasefire announced in Gaza?
Thank you very much, Tulas, and good morning to the listeners. Yes, you see, the issue of Gaza to all of us in South Africa and the world represents the resilience of the human spirit. It exemplifies that. I wish to thank Qatar and Egypt on behalf of the people of South Africa. Without your mandate, I'm thanking them because they went about tirelessly and faithfully in brokering this peace. Qatar especially quietly acted very admirably. It deserves both a Nobel Peace Prize as well as a seat in a reformed Security Council for its work. And finally, as in World War I and II, someone, I'm not saying who, someone and his accomplices have to pay reparations for the damage that was caused there and in the restoration of human dignity. Germany was required to pay reparation twice for World War I and World War II. That should be the case also in Gaza. Thank you very much.
All right, Bond, thank you for that. Yeah, and hopefully that ceasefire does hold, right? It is really important. The humanitarian situation in Gaza has deteriorated quite significantly. It's a catastrophe, actually. Vincent in the Western Cape, you also want to talk about the Gaza ceasefire. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Tulas. I am very happy for the ceasefire that they broke out there because to save those many lives and also the global impact it had also everywhere. Yeah, then I also would like to talk about this, those social bloggers you have been talking about. You say scuttle.
It's former President Mbeki's word, scuttlebutt, but I like it, yes.
Yes, it was unfortunate to us last month, I think when we heard about the death of Udubula. Yeah, Bambula. It was those kind of things that also sometimes we get carried away so much with these followers that we also get ourselves, but also ending up going into most other people's lives as well. Then number two, those emojis to us, man. Sometimes someone will get to test a person with the emoji at first, if you can.
Don't do it. Not a good idea.
Yes, then you start the conversation. Because you start with an emoji, you throw the emoji.
As long as it's not unwanted, Vincent. Thank you for that. That's Vincent in the Western Cape there. Let me speak to Msizi in Kimberley. Good morning, Msizi. WhatsApp for colleagues. Do you send WhatsApp messages to colleagues and do you use emojis?
Good morning, Mr. Simelane, as well as the audience of SAFM. Indeed, I do send them, but I've always had a basic rule that whether it's during office hours or after work, I'm always keeping it official in my WhatsApp messages, the same way that I would in an email. Because I do not want anything to be misconstrued.
Are you one of those in a WhatsApp will be saying, I hope this message finds you well and kind regards in a WhatsApp message?
Well, obviously, I do not use those words, but I'm always very simple and straightforward to what I'm saying. If, for example, it has to do with me asking you to complete a task, I'll simply say, Miss Mambang, I know it's after hours. Could you please assist me with 1, 2, 3? Thank you. And I keep it short.
No emojis.
Avoid using emojis at all costs.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. I think it's sage advice there when I'm Sizip, because the truth is it can't be avoided. WhatsApp is now used for communication within the workplace. Let me take one or two quick voice notes on the issue of gambling. The National Gambling Board concerned that people in South Africa, many people, are now gambling as a means of income and to make ends meet.
Good morning, SAFM listeners, our presenters and our guests. Gambling is a sign of a government that is failing, period. There is no person who can depend on chance in life. You plan a life, you work towards something. Gambling is just trying to chance. So it shows because of unemployment, people are more into gambling. Because of inflation, more people are more into gambling. And it all points to a failing government, a wicked government.
Good morning to you, sir, and to your listeners. It's Edward here in Mpumalanga. Sir, there's no such thing as gambling for leisure. People are desperate out there, and gambling is one of those things that they find easy to try and make a quick buck. You know, this thing of gambling for leisure does not exist. People are desperate out there. People are hungry. So they will try everything or anything they can to try to make some money to support themselves and support their families. Have you seen now how much advertisements are running on television, on radio, you know, about gambling, and it sort of encourages people that do carry on because they might have a chance to win something out there.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as gambling for leisure.
No, I hear you. I've also just battled with that concept. I know that's how it's framed, and the laws were made with that in mind, that you gamble for fun, for leisure. But I hear the point you are making, that it's out of desperation. Many people will be hoping that perhaps today is my lucky day, and if I just place a bet, who knows what might happen. Thank you for those. We will make time for more engagements with you towards the end of the show.
What's your vibe for 2025? Whether it's visiting family or hitting SA's most Insta-worthy spots, Fly Safair is here to make it happen with 30% off flights. That's right, for today only, join the hottest New Year sale around and enjoy 30% off domestic flights for travel until 25 October this year. It's your year to thrive, vibe and make those travel dreams come alive. Book at flysafair.co.za. Fly Safair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Why worry when you could save with low-cost insurance for your older car? Without Insurance Essential, you get up to 1 million rand liability cover. So if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to 1 million rand. Add motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Insurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
22 minutes after 8, multiple submarine cable breaks have affected South Africa's internet capacity in the last few months. According to My Broadband, the cable breaks have brought the country close to crippling outages on a few occasions. The most severe internet outage, we are told, occurred on the 14th of March 2023 when 4 undersea cables suffered outages off the coast of Abidjan in Côte d'Ivoire. For more on this, I'm joined on the line by Jan Vermeulen, who is the editor of My Broadband. Good morning to you, Jan. I've got to thank you for your time. How important a factor is the breakage and damage of these subsea cables? In other words, I'm asking, to what extent have we become dependent on these subsea cables such that when they break, to use an expression, all hell breaks loose?
Yeah, extremely dependent, and that's why we have so many coming into the
country now that we've got high route diversity, because this shouldn't have happened, but when a bunch of these cables went offline, people couldn't access their Microsoft Office applications. Their Outlook wasn't working, their other Microsoft Office applications weren't working because they were linked to Microsoft Azure Cloud here in South Africa. So even though there's a local data center, the international cable going down caused some kind of problem, and that caused Microsoft's whole cloud to go down in South Africa. Now, they've still not explained why it is that an international outage affected local operations, but the fact is it does, and it did. And so, yeah, we've become extremely dependent on these cables, and it's something that people who design these networks and these cloud applications need to take into consideration, that these cables aren't completely unbreakable. Anything from a shark to a boat anchor to terrorist activity can affect them.
And in fact, as you talk about that, Jan, the sizes of these cables, I thought, when we say subsea cables, I imagined them to be quite thick and massive things that are almost indestructible. They're not, are they?
No. The companies that lay these cables do their utmost to protect them. And honestly, the part of the cable, it is a fairly thick cable, and the part of the cable that actually carries the data is extremely thin, like thinner than a finger. The rest of the cable, if you hold up your hand in front of your face and make a C kind of thing, if that's the thickness of the cable, so that'll give you a sense of how, of the ratio of protection, which includes Kevlar coating and all that kind of stuff to protect the sensitive part of the cable. That's the thickness of it, and so there's just a huge amount of there's a huge protective layer around these cables. But when you're talking about an undersea landslide, those are geographic forces that just about nothing can hold up to.
And when it's broken, getting to it and repairing it can be a delicate operation, right?
Yes. So while the technology to actually locate where the break is has become very good, the fact is you still have to dispatch a ship to that location. The ship then has to find exactly where the break is. Then usually the cable is so deep that they have to bring it up onto the deck of the ship to fix it. And then it has to, then the repaired cable gets dropped back down again. So it's actually a huge operation to fix these cables when they do break.
So in a way, these subsea cables and how they reach the continent of Africa is a reminder of how interconnected we are, particularly West and Southern Africa. Tell me about that interconnectivity and what it means when there's a cable when there's cable damage or a cable break somewhere off the coast of West Africa, Abidjan and the likes. What saves South Africa geographically? What leads to South Africa being impacted sometimes?
Yeah, okay. So a couple of things here. So firstly, what saves South Africa geographically, it's that old geography lesson we were taught in school where our location really helps us. The fact that we're surrounded by ocean. We've got a west coast and an east coast. And so we've got cables coming from Europe, coming from the UK, coming down to South Africa, and then you've got cables running along our east coast going to Asia and around the Horn of Africa and into the Mediterranean Sea to connect to Europe that way. And so because we've got this diversity of routes, that really helps us when you see major outages, because we can fall back on different cables. Now, our neighbors and landlocked countries on the continent do not have that luxury. So on the west coast of Africa, for example, when we had these major breaks last year, what would happen to them is they would need to very quickly scramble to activate capacity on a backup cable. Now, it so happened that Google's Equiano cable had essentially just come online. And talking about the interconnectedness between southern and western Africa, what had to happen was companies like WIOP, which is effectively headquartered here in South Africa, its technical divisions anyway, they had to dispatch technicians from South Africa, or at least technicians had to come to South Africa, pick up equipment. These are network interface cards, and network modules, and that sort of thing. They had to pick it up in South Africa and physically fly with that equipment up north to countries that were offline to quickly install it and connect them up to the Equiano cable and get them back online. And so there's actual human beings that need to move physical hardware to react when outages like this happen.
Jan, I want to squeeze this in very quickly. I recently listened to a BBC podcast that was talking about instances where these subsea cables are deliberately damaged between countries that have some hostilities between them. Are we as South Africa having at the very least that conversation that says perhaps this is something to think about as also a national security issue? Because goodness knows when there's been that break and damage to that cable, the implications are dire across society, across our economy.
Yeah, I'm sure that that's a conversation that's being had. There are very few countries with the capability to sabotage undersea cables. You're talking superpowers. The United States, China, Russia, those kinds of countries have that capability. And so, yes, that is a conversation. I've not heard of a confirmed case of sabotage being the cause of an outage. But, yeah, I mean, we know that it's possible. And thus far, it sounds like the companies with these capabilities have been responsible in how they've used that and have not deployed their capability. But yes, it is a conversation one has to have because it can cripple a nation's economy.
What a time to be alive. Thank you for that. That's Jan Vermeulen, who is editor of My Broadband. At 8:30, let's check in with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa has embarked on an indefinite strike at the Bidvest SA container depot in Durban over the retrenchment of 106 members. The Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU, says there's been blatant disregard for the national minimum wage by some employers. And US President Joe Biden has used his farewell address to warn Americans about the dangerous concentration of power in the hands of wealthy people. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Some good news. The R59 North, that collision we've been reporting coming in from the Vaal area just at the ready interchange, that is out of the way. All the backlog has got through and traffic pretty much smooth sailing now. A different story north of town, north of Joburg, crash at the Buccleuch interchange on the M1 North. So behind there, you got some really big traffic coming up. The N3 from Alex, the N1 from Four Ways. Both of those highways jam-packed because as you come off them and turn onto the N1 to Midrand, you're basically turning into that crash on the side of the road and sort of into the traffic. So N1 North, N3 North, wanting to get up through Midrand or Pretoria, maybe hit some alternative routes. Also going south, a crash at Marlborough Drive on the Mike 1, and that's pushing traffic back as far as Allendale Road on that N1 south. Stationary truck between Ashburton and Pietermaritzburg, that is out of the way. That traffic on the way into Pietermaritzburg is eased. Van Rieenen stays busy. Recovery of yesterday's abnormal truck load. A massive transformer fell in the middle of Van Rieenen, so they're still busy with recovery, so expect some delays around that scene. And Cape Town's N1, pretty busy Thursday morning. You should sit from N1 City, sort of Goodwood Parow area, all the way through to the elevated freeway. Plenty of traffic on the M3 as well. As the schools have gone back, we're seeing traffic back on the M3 at this stage from sort of Wynberg Hill all the way to UCT, all the way to UCT, and beyond that to Hospital Bend. Just slow going. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey, good morning once again, Zai. So the ICC Champions Trophy is up next for the Proteas, yeah?
Yeah, it's a big one, and I think we last won it when cassettes were still being played.
So. When transformers were being moved by rail, not by road.
As
Rob was talking about.
Oh, my word. Yeah, that's how it is now at the moment. We need to just I think get rid of that tournament chokers tag, and I think it will be fine. But there are some concerns for the Proteas ahead of the ICC Champions Trophy. Fast bowler Andrik Nokia officially ruled out due to a back injury. A 31-year-old hasn't played international cricket since the T20 World Cup and will miss out on the SA20 and the tournament in Pakistan. His replacement hasn't been confirmed yet, but names like Gerald Coetzee and Wayne Parnell are in the mix. Adding to the headache, star batter Rassie van der Dussen is also in a doubt after suffering a finger injury, and this during playing for MI Cape Town in the SA20 with the Proteas opening match against Afghanistan on the 21st of February. South Africa's squad depth will be tested as they aim to bring the Champions Trophy back home for the first time since they won it in 1998. Soccer, Kaizer Chiefs are under the spotlight once again. They face a red-hot Sekhukhune United team in Durban this Sunday. Chiefs' form has been inconsistent this season, sitting sixth on the table with 5 wins, 3 draws and 5 losses. Their defence has been shaky, conceding the second most goals in the league so far. Meanwhile, Sekhukhune are flying high in a third place after 4 wins and a draw in their last 5 games. Congolese striker Andy Bayela is a key threat, coming off a hat-trick performance. Kickoff is at 3:30 in the afternoon at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. We go now to the head coach of Arsenal, Mikel Arteta, as his side came from behind to win the North London derby against Tottenham Hotspur 2-1.
I think we were sensational. It was a good test to see after 2 big performances and not getting rewarded in 2 different competitions. You have to play the biggest game of the season for our people in those conditions. And it's a test of attitude, you know, what we are made of, the courage that we have, how much we really care only about a result or the performance, and how much we can do in terms of what is required in the game to be better than the position.
Motorsport, South Africa's Henk Latergan moved back atop the overall standings after the 10th stage of the Dakar Rally was won by Spain's Ford driver Nani Roma. In the bike event, Michael Doherty claimed his first ever Dakar win. The South African Rally 2 bike rider rode beautifully over the sand dunes to win his first stage by 1 minute 20 seconds over Rue Gonzalez. And finally, tennis action. Game Monfils progressing to the 3rd round of the Australian Open for the first time since 2022, beating German Daniel Altmaier. British number 1 Jack Draper, he beat the home favourite Tanasi Kokinakis over 5 grueling sets. And the world number 51 Miomir Kecmanovic of Serbia toppling Poland's 18th seed Hubert Hurkacz to advance to the 3rd round. And in the ladies' draw, former world number 2 Ons Jabeur has recovered from a mystery health scare to book her spot in the 3rd round. She had a win over the Colombian Camila Osorio, and the world number 2 Iga Swiatek advancing to the 3rd round as well. She swept aside Rebecca Stramkova of Slovakia 6-love, 6-2, and the world number 7 Elena Rybakina advancing to the 3rd round after cruising past Eva Jokic 6-love, 6-3. That's a wrap. We'll have more sport. That's with John Herricker around 12:30 for SAFM Sport. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Hey, Ndaulen, good morning to you once again. This is not the news that many homeowners and people with debt that accrues interest would want to hear. There's a warning that the sub may not implement may implement less rate cuts than many anticipated.
That's right, Silas. And this is not to say that it may increase rates. It just will adopt a more slower pace to its rate cutting policy. And with just 2 weeks before the SARB's first MPC meeting for 2025, traders are saying that, they're not sure about this rate cutting cycle, and they expect just 1 rate cut for the year. Initially, they anticipated multiple rate cuts, but now they're only pricing in 1 25 basis point cut, likely at the January 30th Monetary Policy Committee meeting. This shift in expectations is mostly driven by the Fed's decision to slow down rate cuts and U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's uncertain tariff policies. In a Bloomberg article, strategist at Societe Generale, Marek Drimmel, said that the central bank may even postpone the rate cut until March due to unfavorable market and external financial conditions. Now, this view contradicts many economists' forecasts. Initially, many priced in 2 25 basis point cuts this quarter. followed by another cut in the third quarter. But Governor Lesesha Kganyago's hawkish commentary at the last meeting in November also just nerved some economists. Kganyago has emphasized the need for caution, stating that the MPC will proceed cautiously due to the uncertain global outlook.
So we're easing on the accelerator as far as the rate cuts are concerned, but actually stepping on the gas as far as fuel prices are concerned.
Yeah, so you and I are bracing for another significant fuel price hike next month, marking the fourth consecutive month of increases. So, it's not good news at all. So the Central Energy Fund's latest data suggests that the price of 95 unleaded petrol is expected to rise by around 80 cents per litre, while diesel prices may increase by 95 cents per litre. The main drivers of this price hike are the weakening rand and rising international oil prices. The rand has lost over 5% of its value against the dollar in the past month. I mean, even this week we saw it hitting lows of 19.15 to the dollar. It has since, recovered. The decline, coupled with the US dollar's rally to a 2-year high, has made imports more expensive for South Africa. And Brent has reached $80 per barrel due to US sanctions against Russia and increased demand for heating fuel during the Northern Hemisphere's colder than expected winter. Now, the final fuel prices for February will be announced at the end of January, with adjustments taking effect on the first Wednesday of next month.
Lastly then, Tauleng, what does the day have in store for us, and as far as the markets are concerned?
I know most parts of our report this hour was negative, but we were in for some upbeat movement in the JSE. It's most likely to open in the green. Another upbeat day of trade, just following its global peers. In terms of local company news, there are updates from Richmond, PPC, and BHP. So traders will be waking up to that. On the currency front, rand trading stronger this hour as the dollar steadies is sitting at 18.78 to the greenback from about 18.83 about an hour ago. Over in Wall Street, futures are flat following yesterday's strong finish. Investors digesting inflation figures and assessing how the latest reports will influence the Fed's policy moving forward. Then over in Asia, stocks on track to end the day in the green, an upbeat finish in contrast to the mixed and negative trading sessions we've seen over the past few days.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lechela. Have yourself a great day. That's Ntauleng there. She's been watching all things to do with the economy, business, and the markets for you over the last 3 hours here on the Morning Brief.
I feel great, I feel nice.
Kasha, what's the score? We're coiling on the highest, the summer level. What's the score? It's the Nandi sessions with Mr. Showdem. It's the fa of live music. It's the go on SABC Plus. Catch the JR Feel Good sessions at 6 Fridays only on SABC 1. Mzansi for sure.
Defending champions Bayer Leverkusen want to stay close to the log leaders, while Borussia Mönchengladbach are navigating a path to the top 4. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch Bayer Leverkusen versus Borussia Mönchengladbach on Saturday, 18 January at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
18 minutes to 9 here on the Morning Brief. The Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi has once again proposed consolidating the examination processes for public and private schools to become one. Lesufi made the same utterances last January. The proposal, supported by the Gauteng MEC for Education, Matume Chelwane, suggests establishing a unified, standardized system for all students, eliminating the divide between the Independent Examination Board, IEB, and the National Senior Certificate, NSC exams. Let's bring into the conversation Professor Jonathan Jansen, who is a professor of education at Stellenbosch University. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. So, what is the problem as far as you understand it, that these proposals by MEC Chilwane and Premier Lesufi seek to adjust in as far as the current system goes?
It's political. They are embarrassed by the fact that the students who do the IEB exam, which is much more stringent, much tougher academically, consistently outperform the children in the public school exam, the NSC. That's what this is about. And as long as it remains a political action to try and make everybody the same, for which, by the way, there is no defense in the Constitution or the South African Schools Act, it is in fact good for a country to have at least 2, 3, or 4 exam systems, because the one keeps the other honest. But to come to your question, this is about political embarrassment, that those results are always better. Everybody knows the standards are higher, and that is what these two politicians are about.
But substantively, there is nothing broken as far as you can see. I mean, these figures, the pass rates, for example, differ vastly between the two. The IEB metric class of 2024, for example, with a pass rate of 98.4%, whereas the NSC metric class, scoring an 87.3%. You are saying to me this morning, this doesn't point to something broken in the exams system. I almost used the differentiated exam system.
No, there's nothing wrong with a differentiated exam system. The NSC, that is the government exam, has been steadily improving. We have criticisms about the nature of the improvement, but nevertheless. And of course, the IB has always performed better, but they perform better, they bring out their marks earlier, they get many more bachelor's passes, for example, than in the public school system. And that should be okay. But these guys are Stalinists, you see. They think that the only good system is one in which government controls everything, right? And you know what happens when government controls everything, as we've seen in the public hospitals, we've seen with SAA, you've seen with ESCOM, they screw it up. So, no, I think the public must be clear that this is about political control. It is not about improving the educational system.
Just for clarity, Prof, despite writing going down 2 separate streams for examinations, all public and private schools in South Africa follow the same curriculum. Am I correct in that understanding?
They broadly follow the same curriculum, but remember, the curriculum on paper is not the same as the curriculum in practice. In other words, if I'm in a township school with no science laboratory, for example, I will simply teach to what my resources allow, But if you're in an independent school that is relatively well off, you can do a lot more. So even though, again, on paper, the curriculum is the same, its expression in the classroom is vastly different depending on the resources.
What about this argument that says writing the same exam would be more realistic, given that after matric, these pupils eventually sit for the same exams at university level, and that perhaps standardizing this matric exam could lead to better university preparedness?
Are you kidding me? No, that's nonsense. The logic doesn't follow, right? So I teach at university, I can tell you, the students do well regardless of which school system they came from, or they do poorly, because not so much because of what exam they wrote, but because of what kinds of schools they attended. There are schools right now that don't even have all their teachers because the government hasn't adequately funded it. So Lesufi and Chilwane, Lesufi in particular, these are really people whose only interest is politics. Their only interest is control. Their only interest is to bring everybody down, cut everybody down to the same size. And by the way, among the independent schools that write the IEB are, historically black schools, who want to, perform at a much higher level. By the way, I wouldn't even mind if there was a third stream like the Cambridge O and A level system that they have in Zimbabwe and other countries. It just makes the system more competitive. It gives parents options, etc. My kids wrote the normal public school exam. I'm happy with it. But I've got nothing against my neighbor who says, hey, I'd like to give my kids a shot at the IEB or something else.
And lastly, Prof, part of the difficulty, I imagine, then, that the proponents of this proposal to consolidate the 2 exams will have is that they can't go far back enough in terms of consolidating even the two education systems, because that's entrenched in our Constitution, in our Bill of Rights, right? Section 29, subsection 3 talks about that right to establish and maintain at own expense independent educational institutions.
That's right, and the role of the state in any country, by the way, is to monitor the standards, not to try and shut them down.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time there. That's Professor Jonathan Jansen, who is a professor of education at Stellenbosch University.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Let's zoom in and get you an update on the run out of Joburg through towards Midrand and Pretoria today. It's still very heavy. There's a crash and also some roadworks in the same area as well. So we're talking Buccleuch interchange and the ramps from the N3 North and the N1 North from Fourway. So really big traffic passing Alex on the N3, coming up past Sunninghill on the N1. Problems getting off those highways for a turn onto the N1 North through Buccleuch to turn up to Midrand. Just away from that, if you're looking for alternative routes, there's some roadworks that have popped up on the R21 North before Olifantsfontein, so passing Tembisa. There's quite a heavy and unusual backlog. It hasn't been there so far this year. It is day one of that disruption. Van Rinne's Pass staying slow around recovery of that transformer that fell off a truck about 9 o'clock yesterday, so we're into about 24 hours since that incident's happened, and it's still being recovered. The truck is out of the way, but the transformer right in the middle still being attended to. Cape Town traffic a little bit busy still on the N1 inbound from the Goodwood area, the N2 inbound from Bunga Avenue in front of Langa to Hospital Bend, and we're back to school. We're back to traffic on the M3. The M3's been clear for the last few weeks, but this morning you're sitting again, as you normally would expect to, from Wynberg Hill, just moving up through the Bishop's Court area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Abafana has turned and the Rockets are both looking for a decent spot in the top half. They are all confident they will walk away from the battlefield with jubilance. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch the great passion and drama of Mzansi's beautiful game. Golden Arrows FC takes on TS Galaxy FC on Saturday, 18 January, live on SABC 1 at 2:30 p.m. and SABC radio stations at 3:30 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
What's your vibe for 2025? Whether you want to hit up SA's most Insta-worthy spots, visit family, or check out a new destination, Fly Safair's got you with 30% off domestic flights. That's right, for today only, get 30% off flights to all main South African destinations for travel right up until the 25th of October this year. Don't miss out. Head to flysafair.co.za now and make 2025 a vibe. Sale ends at midnight. Fly Safair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's run through quickly just run through your calls and some of your voice notes. So I'll pull myself a little bit back from the conversation, not out of a lack of interest, but to try and accommodate as many calls as possible. Let's start with Billy. Short and sharp for me. Good morning, Billy. You want to talk to me about education standards in this country?
Mathematics remain mathematics, whether you teach it in private or in public. The problem is the discipline, how you teach it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they must invest resources and manage them well in the public sector. The problem becomes if you take your own children to a public school, to a private school, and you teach in a public school, what is the discipline there?
Yeah.
All these government officials and teachers and everyone take their own children to the private schools, and they focus there, they invest there.
That's
There's
quite
investment
telling.
of any resources.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you for that. That's Billy there in Sekokone. Let me bring Bonagele in the Western Cape. Good morning to you, Bonagele. You want to talk to me about gambling?
Absolutely. A very good morning and a happy new year to you.
Happy New Year to you. The year is no longer new now. Bonagele now.
No, but just talking to you this year, 2025.
Please go ahead.
Listen, I open the radio and listen to people talking about gambling because there are those who doesn't believe in gambling. You know, when you do gambling it's a win or lose. And nobody is forced to play gambling.
Yeah.
I'll talk about myself personally, 2015, I like playing Lotto sometimes, you understand?
Yeah.
2 lines of Lotto Plus, Powerball Plus. Then, 2015, it was, you paid for 2 lines, you paid 10 rand.
Mm-hmm.
So, having played for 10 rand, you end up winning 14,028 rand and 80 cents. Is it not worth it?
Luck smiled on you a few times, I guess.
Honestly speaking, like last year, for instance, in March, in 1 week, Wednesday, I played Lotto for 20 rand.
Uh-huh.
Then I won 4 numbers plus bonus. I'm talking about March.
Yeah.
So Wednesday. Then I won 2,480.
Wow.
But the very same week, on Friday,
yeah,
because I'm on the road, I played another 15 rand Powerball Plus. Then I won 6,600.
Get out of here, Bonagele. How lucky can one person be?
I'm really going to try and tell me, I'll listen to someone and say, no, there's nothing like gambling.
Gotcha.
No,
Thank you.
It's about taking chances, my brother.
Thank you, Bonagele. Got you. I guess that's Bonagele is one of those people that the late Oliver Mtukudzi sang about, people who just have luck, lucky. For some reason, they're just lucky people. How many times can one person win something out of the lottery? Thulani in the Western Cape, you want to talk to me about the ceasefire between Israel and Gaza?
Thulasizwe. Hey, I hear a lot about everybody talking about they're happy for Gaza.
Uh-huh.
I'm also happy for the civilians of Gaza. But I'm going to give you an analogy. We went home now in Christmas and New Year's, and we were forced to see our in-laws for 2-3 days. And it was tough. It was difficult. Imagine those hostages. I'm not talking about seeing your in-laws. Imagine those hostages that have been there since October 8th, 2023. It's now 2025. Children, women, men, we often forget about the men as well. They've been there, stuck. Some of them have seen some of the people they came in with pass away, die. God knows what has been happening to them.
Yeah.
So the trauma. So what I'm saying is, I'm not only grateful that the ceasefire has happened for the people of Palestine, but also for the people of Israel. Those hostages, we forget what has happened to them.
Yeah.
Let's not forget the great atrocities.
Absolutely.
If you can't take 3 days with umama zala wako, imagine what they're going through. So, yes, thank you. And let's not forget Trump as well. Thank you, Trump, for putting the pressure in. Thank you.
Thulani, thank you for that. Let me take a call from Mampejo in Limpopo. Mampejo, you want to talk to me about kingships among the Balobedu people. Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say to Thulasizwe that South Africa is different nations. We have Zulus, we have Balobedu vendors, and all of us have different cultures. Balobedu have a queenship, but they forget that our constitution has a Bill of Rights which prohibits anybody to discriminate anybody on the basis of sex or whatever. Their firstborn child is Prince Likukele. By being the firstborn child, the Constitution guarantees that he must ascend the throne. We cannot discriminate him because they have queenship. Even Mabedi don't have queenship. But now, Queen Margaret is hitting us because we could not discriminate her on the basis of that culture. So all our cultures are good, but they cannot supersede the Constitution.
Yeah.
The Constitution is supreme, so whoever was born first
100%
must ascend the throne.
Gotcha.
We cannot entertain this issue of queenship for a long time. Yes, it was practiced long time ago. It was working, but by adopting a constitution which is supreme, we cannot discriminate anybody on the basis of
100%. Thank you for that, Mampejo.
The same thing in Venda.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that, Mampejo. And there's plenty of authority for what you are saying there, Mampejo. 100% spot on in terms of the jurisprudence and the decisions that have come through from the Constitutional Court on that very question. Wonga in Matatiele, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about corruption in municipalities?
Yes, Tulas, good morning. And I almost wanted to say
Happy New Year, but I understand it's almost over now. Thulas, there's a project here in 2023 that involves Ward 17 and Ward 21 under the Alfred Nzo district, which is called the Fubani Water Scheme 2D. Two companies scored the same amount of points, which is about 94 points. But the bid adjudication committee gave this particular tender to a company that never provided the necessary document from all the stages of winning the tender. It never went through. Last year, an amount of more than 50 million fighting battles. Even this one also, on this has been awarded. They are in court, which means that is supposed to go to help people of Madagaskar with war and Tabangul is going to fight court battles because the people sitting in these committees favors certain people. And if you check the procurement preferential that was put out on Government Gazette on 22 November 2020, they flouted anything and everything. They never followed the thing because it's my own thinking. I think this particular company that supplied anything and everything, I don't think maybe they like the person who owns it or they like the company.
Yeah.
But that is scored the same amount of points. You ask yourself, how did this company, without the necessary paperwork, reach to 94%?
Gotcha.
What have they done? So there's a problem.
Thank you for that, raising important questions that even the Auditor General raises about the procurement practices within government being one of the main problems. That's Wonga in Matatiele there, and that's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your lively engagement. The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana is up next here on SAFM after the news. And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident, and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43187.
In our top stories, NUMSA's strike at Bidvest Container Depot and Biden's warning on unchecked power of the wealthy. Good morning. The National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa has embarked on an indefinite strike at the Bidvest SA Container Depot in Durban over the retrenchment of 106 members. The strike follows failed Section 189 consultations between NUMSA and Bidvest, which started soon after the notice was served to the union in September. NUMSA has accused Bidvest of lying about being in financial distress and abusing company processes to advance its profits. NUMSA spokesperson Pagamile Hlubi Majola.
They claimed in their Section 189A notice that the reasons they are doing this is because they're losing revenue, they've lost customers, they're not making as much money because of the impact of the crisis that we had at the ports. However, in our Section 189 engagements with them, it emerged through interrogation that this company is not doing as badly as they claim. In fact, they are gaining new customers. What they're actually doing is they're trying to increase their profits by outsourcing this particular arm of the business.
NUMSA has called on Bidvest to terminate its plans of outsourcing the work of the SACD in Durban and says it remains open to negotiations. Hlubi Majola elaborates.
They have figured out that if they outsource this division, they are going to make a lot more profit. It's going to cost them a lot less because they're not going to have to pay permanent salaries. They're not going to have to pay bonuses. All of the things that we've negotiated as terms of condition in their work, they're not going to have to do.